This is Cosmographia, the Randall Carlson podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, to Kosmographia, the Randall Carlson podcast. And we're joined by all the Hollywood Squares. We've got Brad, got Mike, the normal guy, and of course Randall. And what do you guys think? Is you getting spring over there where you live? Is it spring yet?
It's today is a beautiful sunny day.
Yeah.
It was rainy yesterday, but spring is creeping up on us.
All right.
Yes, it is. About 60 today, maybe just hit 60. We had 68 a couple of days before the rain came in, and that was nice. That gave us a foretaste of what's to come.
Yeah.
Another 4 to 6 weeks from now, I'll be ready for it.
The crocuses and the daffodils are blooming. The living roses are blooming.
Saw a flock of starlings the other day, singing away in the tree, like letting us know that
They know.
that they know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, growing up in Minnesota, of course, this was the time of year where I was like, oh, spring, hurry up. Because it was not only 6 months of winter and being snowed in, that's like you're also looking at there's light at the end of the tunnel because you know that summer vacation is on the way.
Oh, yeah.
And summer vacation, you know what that meant? Freedom.
Yes.
Freedom for
Freedom.
3 months.
Fishing.
So how long is
Land of
summer in
1,000
Minnesota?
lakes.
Like 2 weeks?
No, man, we got a good summer up there.
It lasts at least a whole Saturday, I've heard.
Typically, summer kicks in about August 23rd, and then it's over by September 2nd, right in there. No. Well, let's see. I mean, by June, we were swimming in the lakes. They were chilly, but certainly doable,
Yeah.
So, but late March was the big. I loved late March because that's when the snowpack melted. And if I had to trace the ultimate origin of this interest in paleohydrology, it was back to being a kid watching the snow melt, because when the snow is melting away, and if you guys have never really grown up in an environment where you got 6 feet of snow, right?
Didn't grow up, but I did live in Vermont for a year and in Wyoming for a year. So
So then you're not completely ignorant about the phenomena that's associated with the snow melt.
right.
And the cool thing is you had all these temporary creeks and rivulets and things, and we had a lot of fun with that because we would build dams out of mud and rock and logs and stuff, and then get cherry bombs and blow them up.
Yes. Oh yeah, we did all that stuff. Yeah.
So
Where we grew up, there was a creek behind our house, and we dammed it up all the time. And sometimes it would make people mad because the dams were pretty effective.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there would, and some of these streams were pretty impressive actually, and they would only last for a week or two because the snow was melting away.
The melt streams, right? Yeah.
Melt streams, yeah. So we would be ready, and we got some pretty elaborate infrastructure built. Some of those springs, 11, 12, 13 years old. Yeah. We were on top of all that, and then. And then you knew that the countdown. Once you hit Easter vacation, then it was like the countdown. And of course, back for us in rural Minnesota, back then in the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, summer vacation lasted from you got out for Memorial Day, and then you didn't go again until after Labor Day.
Right.
And then we used to get a week off for Thanksgiving, because there was a lot of harvesting work and stuff that would be going on around Thanksgiving. So we got a whole week off. So
Did you do any harvests?
Well, yeah. I mean, we weren't farmers, so I mean,
Right.
but
You
the
hide
farmers.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we're trimming up the grapevines right now at the vineyard.
Well, how did they fare with the Younger Dryas event that you guys had?
We're looking at about 20% mortality for the buds. So it's not bad.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Some,
good.
I mean,
some people had 80% bud loss on some.
Ooh, no, that would be bad.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's all right. It's not mortality of the plants. It's the buds that will sprout in spring. So all the
Okay.
grapevines already have these little tiny white buds all over them, where you know that the new shoots will come up in spring. And the freeze, dried up, killed basically about 20% of those on our.
I see.
We sent some samples off to test, but 20% is not nearly as bad as we were worried it could be. So.
Good.
So yeah, we're going through and trimming them up. We're getting them ready because bud break is coming.
And then, okay, then what's the next step?
well, we have to cover them with hail netting
Yep.
to protect once we were done pruning.
Spring hail.
And that is a huge job. And then once the shoots get about 18 inches long, probably go in and do some shoot thinning depending on
If you need how vigorous they are, yeah.
because you strategically leave so many buds. But so since we think, well, we've got about a 20% mortality rate for the buds, we're leaving extra buds. So if a lot of them come up, we're gonna have to go in and thin them out. But yeah, and then it's just making sure they have water and waiting for the fruit to set.
Yeah, and we're doing you train them so that they grow up as mostly a single trunk and then it splits into a T. Right, so the trunk goes up and splits out into a T, and then the lengths of the T, whatever, 2 feet, 2.5.
Yeah, they're 5 foot spaces.
Yeah, so 5 foot total for the top of the T, and then all the buds grow up from that, and so the fruit all ends up right there in this sort of, like when you're standing next to the trellis, the fruit is all right here at chest level. It's fun at the chest level. Yeah, it's fun. It's each vine presents its own puzzle. Yeah. Thousands of them.
Oh, thousands of them?
That's right.
Guess you guys are gonna have your hands full for a while.
Yeah, yes.
How long will it take you to go through and prune, or you go through an harvest?
We've got about 25 rows, and we were doing about a little over 2 rows a day
Yeah.
pruning.
Just the two of you?
3 of us,
There's 3 of us, yeah.
sometimes 4.
Yeah.
The rows are 600 feet long.
Wow. Vine every 5 feet, 6 feet.
And then
That's a lot of vines.
by next year, we'll have close to 12,000 vines.
Planting
I don't think it was space.
6 more acres of them. So we'll give you once spring happens and the buds break and they start getting green, we'll take some pictures and we'll show them on the show so you guys can see the place. It's really beautiful.
You'd love to see.
Yeah. That
Your
I
hand,
would.
your hand must be really cramped by the time you get all that done.
It's mostly in the knees because you got to keep, like getting down and looking at the vine and trimming. Then you stand up and you go to the next one. It's up and down and your knees and your feet start to hurt. But
Yeah, a few years of that, you're gonna blow your knees out, so.
yeah.
And
Yeah, so we got these
especially
cool
at your
carts.
age now, Russ, you gotta start being nice to your knees.
Right. I already have to be nice to my back. Now I got to be watching
Yeah.
my knees too. Yeah.
Yeah, we bought some special carts for that. They're like, think of a wagon, but there's a chair on it that's sideways, so you can sit on it, and it kind of crabs
It
along.
goes sideways.
Oh,
Space
okay.
the vines and the next one. So we're gonna try those out.
It's hard. We're getting more help too.
Yeah. There's gonna be too much for us.
The goal is 3,000 cases of wine a year. So we're right now. Last harvest we're going to have enough wine from last harvest to make 300 cases.
Okay.
But I got to up that by 10.
We got to go up an order of magnitude.
An order of magnitude.
All right, so 3,000, where does that put you in compared to the vineyard? Is that
Small.
Is it still small, or is
We're
it
tiny.
medium?
Tiny.
Yeah, there's quite a few, but that's pretty small. I mean, some of these guys they're doing they're making wine for everybody around, and they're also making 60,000 cases of their own every year. So it's, but yeah, it's still a pretty decent operation doing, 3,000 cases of wine.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So the
That's
6
how much
more
we-
acres are going to get you to that? Or
Yeah.
it's got to be bigger than that?
No, that's it. This is the last.
So we have 6 now. 4.
We have 4 now. We're putting in 7-ish.
Yeah, we're gonna have around 12-ish. Right.
Between 11 and 12.
Yeah. When we're done. So,
Well, it's 3,000
bottles
cases.
in a case?
yes.
How many?
Yeah,
At 3,000 cases, it better be good wine.
it is. It'll be top shelf, buddy.
That's right.
Only the best.
Sweet. Well, I'm looking forward to trying some.
Yeah, we'll hopefully we'll be able to bring some of the Scablands for you guys to try.
Oh, good. All right. So,
From last year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had 2 barrels last year, which is each barrel's 51 gallons. It was a really small batch. Yeah. Good stuff. 55 cases we made.
So what's the topic today, Randall? Where are we going?
well, we've been following the route of the Bonneville flood along the Snake River, and where we left off was right up there at the junction of the Snake River with the Clearwater, where Lewiston and Clarkston are found. And we looked at Tammany Bar, where we had Bonneville flood sediments being washed north up along, up the Snake River, and then they were met by Missoula flood, I'll call them Cordilleran flood, back flood silts that overtopped the coarser, dark-colored, grayer, bluish-grayer gravels of the Bonneville flood, made a very distinct difference between the two. So, I could probably actually just pull up the slide where we left off, and we could have a look-see, and I think I'll just do that.
All right.
And there we go. Now, even to the untrained eye, this is obviously 2 very distinct types of sediment here, right? So below, you have the Bonneville flood, and remember, the currents, the flows coming from the right of this picture are flowing downhill. They're flowing down gradient, right? Those coming from the left are actually flowing up gradient. So the course of the Snake River has been reversed, literally, in order to deposit these fine-grained silts, these buff-colored silts, on top of the darker, grayer-colored gravels, bouldery gravels. And then we also pointed out the loess that is on the top up there, which is something actually it would be fun to have devote maybe not a whole, well, we could easily devote a whole podcast to just this discussion of lust, because there's been a lot of interesting studies, controversies, and mysteries about the lust. What is the origin of the lust? And one of the things to a sedimentologist that they're going to look at with this is that, you can see it very plainly here in the Missoula sediments, right? They're horizontal, basically, right? And the amount of tilt, or in geological terms, the amount of dip of the sedimentary strata is an indication generally of current velocity. So the faster the current is moving, the steeper the dip is going to be of the sediments. And if you look up here in the Missoula flood, back flood silts, you see how they're much more horizontal, right? When you look down here at the Bonneville, look at here. I mean, here you can see very clearly the steep dip.
I've been trying to figure out in my mind, just imagine the physics how does it get the, how does the flow determine the tilt of that line, the dip?
Well,
Yeah, maybe I need to
okay,
look into it.
picture these coarse gravels are like bed load, right? And there's mounds of them. Like if you could picture the current ripples, right? Now the shear forces of the flowing water is and it's sediment laden. It's flowing over this mounded area, and basically what's happening is the water is hitting the stoss side, the upstream side, and as it's moving up, it's dragging material up over the top, and then it's sort of dropping it as it flows down the other side.
Okay.
You see?
Yeah.
So it just kind of is repeating this process. And so if you look at this, try to imagine, you can actually see where you've got the bedding here, and then it's been truncated. You see it's been truncated right here?
Yep.
And then you've got another suite of 4 sets, as they're called here, that has then been truncated.
Yeah.
So that's basically what's happening, is that in the water, it's kinematic, it's pulsed. And these pulses of material tend to form this kind of a rippled effect.
So somewhere upstream of that is an obstruction that it's pushing over and then dropping.
Well, this is how I would explain the what's called coarsening upward. Typically in normal deposition, it's called fining upward. So if you've got like
What's up, buddy?
a stream that's flowing into a
up,
lake
dude?
or a pond, right? What is it? And now the stream is flowing. The faster it's flowing, the more competent it is to contain and transport sediment. When the flow slows down, which can occur throughout the whole thing, a shallowing of the gradient or a widening of the channel, either one of those things
so
can
loud.
cause a slowing down of
It's
the
so
current.
loud.
When the current begins slowing down,
What's up, man?
proportional to its velocity is its ability to entrain and transport material. So it starts slowing down. First thing it does is it will deposit the finest stuff first.
Yo, if my
Except
stream,
unless it's in
if my stream
suspension.
is lagging, just let me know,
I'm
man.
sorry, back up,
Do you think you ran out of the
The-
house with it to the bathroom and flush? Yeah, probably.
coarsest stuff first goes down. The finer stuff successively
Let me
goes
know if
down,
the
and then
stream
you'll
is,
finally have
lagging.
the
I can
really
close the
fine stuff
video.
that's in suspension.
What's up, dude? How you doing?
But so that's fining upward. So the coarse stuff is at the bottom, and as you go towards the top of the deposit, it gets progressively finer and finer and finer, and then at the very end, it may be really fine, because the finest sedimentary size is going to be clay, right? And clay can typically be in suspension because it's that fine. So then as the water level goes down, then you'll get a clay layer. This will be this fining upward. Okay, now what we have here is an example of the reverse of that. We've got a coarsening
That was
upward.
really bad. That was really bad. Sorry.
And the way that I think that is typically, not in all cases, but I would think it applies to this too, is that somewhere upstream you have a temporary emblockment, you have a temporary obstruction. And the most likely obstruction, there could be a number of things. It's probably, in this case, it's not going to be an ice jam, an iceberg jam like you would have in the Missoula floods, right? Because the Missoula floods are also going to be associated with a tremendous breakup of ice masses. So you're going to have a lot of huge icebergs and ice masses being
Yo,
carried
I use
along
nail
in the
polish now,
waters
Gyges.
coming from the north,
Uh,
right? So
Hey,
that
man,
can
you do
actually
you,
cause,
man.
just like in,
Nothing wrong with that.
in rivers in a northern climate, we were talking about earlier during that spring thaw, when the rivers start breaking up, say in the northern latitudes. This is one of the things we
You do
used to
you,
do as
man.
kids that we always.
I think
like
David
to go
Bowie
out
used nail
try to
polish.
catch, like the river, the local
Clear
rivers
mat?
breaking
Why,
up,
buddy?
because
For your-
they will literally get
safety?
to a
For your health? For
threshold
your job,
within
you mean?
a day or two. They will break up. It might be a solid, floor of ice. And then with 2 days later, it's just a whole
Job
big
is-
old bunch of chunks
oh.
of broken up river ice.
I hope
that's
you're wearing
now
gloves,
being
buddy. I hope you're
sluggishly
wearing, like, latex
moved
gloves.
along. But what happens
Maybe that's
is
what's
if you get
not
into a
messing up your
bend
nails, but
or a constriction or bridge abutments, that's one of the big concerns.
sorry, man.
Is during the breakup of the rivers, if you get ice jams built up on the upcurrent side of the bridge abutments, and then that can cause problems. So you've got to do something to help prevent
Double gloving.
that destruction from taking place. And
The
it's
latex
the
message
same
shit up.
concept as
Sorry,
a
man.
log jam,
Dries
and if you've
out.
got,
Oh,
for
yeah.
example, a
Sorry about
wider
that, man.
channel, and then the channel narrows, and you got all of this stuff being carried, and it's all trying to get into the channel. what'll happen? It'll temporarily jam up, and then what happens when it temporarily jams up is the water level rises just behind it because the flow is still coming on, right? As the water level's rising up behind it, what's happening to the pressure? Pressure's going up, right? So at some point, the pressure of the water backing up will be enough to force through the obstruction.
Fuck.
Okay, so
Whatever.
in the case of the Bonneville flood, what I would speculate is that because of the fact that we've already hypothesized that there's a very strong probability, that the events preceding the Bonneville flood involved lots and lots and lots of rainfall over some period of time, whether it was days or weeks or months or even a few years, a period of a lot of rainfall, excessive rainfall. Now, whether it all comes all in one day or 2 days over
Brutal,
several
man.
months, it's all a matter of when the ground mass becomes saturated enough that it begins to completely lose its cohesiveness, and then you have a mass wasting event. So, in fact, the original dam that blocked
Damn it.
the north end of Lake Bonneville was probably the result of ancient landslides that had come down off the mountain slopes, filled the valley bottom, and then had lithified to some degree, but not nearly to the density or the degree of induration
Gotta look up more.
as the hard granite sill below, right? So it's much more easily erodible. But the idea here is that if this is moving along, like think about it, you still got to get all of this material and water from the Snake River Plain north through Hell's Canyon. Hell's Canyon is
Here we go, here we go. This is the run, this is the
gonna
run.
have lots
This is it.
of expansions
Not even memeing.
and constrictions and offsets and things like this. So at the same time that this is happening, if you've got a whole lot of rainfall,
It's over. It's
it's
over.
saturating the mountain slopes, it's going to create these instabilities. Now you're going to have landslides, mass wasting events where stuff goes down into the valley, chokes the valley temporarily. Now the water builds up behind them, right?
Oh my god, this
And
might
at
actually
some
work.
point, the pressure gets great enough that it
Can you imagine?
bursts through, it pushes through, and now it's carrying that coarser stuff with, and it's also moving fast initially because of the pressure release, and so now it's entrained larger stuff. That's how I would speculate what we're seeing right here, something like that.
Yeah, that's the coarse stuff getting at the top. Yeah.
Yes. So this is called coarsening upward, and it's the reverse of what you would normally have. Does that make
Still-
sense?
Yes, it does. It's still amazing to me that just the steep slope of those, what do you call them?
Brutal, man.
Forsets.
So brutal.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to imagine the water's there's a pulse of water, it's carrying a bunch of stuff, and there's a downslope somewhere in the sediment that's already on the floor of the flow. Is that the idea? And it's
Yeah.
as it's coming up and it's dropping, the water's dropping stuff in it, and so that downslope is moving downstream.
Yeah, yes, it's actually moving downstream. That's
Right,
exactly
okay.
right.
And then that begins to peter out a little bit, and then there's another pulse of water carrying more stuff, and it does the same thing again on top of the one before, and now it's moving downstream. So that's how
Yes.
we see. Okay, all right,
Yeah.
very cool.
And again, here's the thing. This is not a uniform flow by any means that we got.
Right.
It's not like water's flowing smoothly in a pipe. If you look at what's called, laminar flow, it's basically, you can almost separate the water into layers and everything's moving along nice and uniformly. That ain't happening here. We got water that's, going through all kinds of ups and downs and expansions and contractions and, all of that kind of stuff. So what's happening is that there is this, much variability in the flow. Yet even that, there's still going to be a structure, and that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah,
And-
it's so clear. It's amazing.
Damn it.
yeah.
Violent flow full of all that crap.
Do tell me if I'm dropping frames. I can just stop I can remove the...
Well, yeah. It's almost like a
podcasts.
frozen snapshot of what you could actually see if you could somehow make the currents visible.
Right, if you could vivisect the current.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly it. So yeah, that's what we're seeing here. And you know, the level of differentiation also tells you, you know, stuff too.
serious?
Because sometimes
Come on.
here you've got very clear foresets, right? Up here, they're not nearly as clear. So what that's suggesting to me is that the water slowed down in here. You had an event where, see, now you got a picture. If you followed these foresets, they would do this. Follow the cursor. This is what they would be doing in cross section. So you've got something along here, this change in flow regime that's able to shear off the top of this thing and then start a new sequence. That's like you see, that's what you see right here. The top of this got sheared off and then it started building a new sequence of foresets.
Would that be like it's dragging huge material across it? Like,
Maybe, yeah, that could, maybe. Or what'll happen is if the water is, again, if you were measuring the current velocity,
Yo,
you'd
Dick,
find that
let me
there's
show you
the
something.
velocity is constantly
I'd like to show you
changing.
something. I would like to
So,
show you the
remember,
amount
if-
of auto
let's
aim
say you've got water with less
on
sediment. You know, the water
on
flow, depending on
Japanese
its
00.
velocity, it has limits as to how much material it can entrain, and once it reaches that limit, it basically isn't going to, it can't carry anymore. It has a maximum amount of ability to transport material. So at some point, it will stop doing that. Okay? Now, let's say that you've got an influx of clearer water behind a water that's choked with sediment, right? The water that's choked with sediment, it's settling out, or it's like right in this place. You know,
Or
we
this
saw
though,
that
I mean,
in
it's
this bend in
it's
the
kind of
valley.
hard. Like, I mean, I'm sure if you like
The water could be
practice
slowing
it a
down,
lot,
and
it's
then if you're behind it, you have a pulse of water that is not as filled with sediment, and it's in other words, it's
practice it
getting
a lot.
that threshold. Okay, here it's now reached its maximum carrying capacity. So it's not picking up any more sediment. It's just moving along what it's got, but it's not really picking up more.
Practice it a lot.
If you go below that threshold, now it can start picking up sediment.
Okay, yeah.
And if you go way below that threshold, now it can come in and it can just whoosh, just sweep away layers of what's already there.
Right, okay, so it will pick up, yeah, so it could
I'm sure if you like
Yeah.
practice it a lot, it's
It's a whole language, and I have by no means mastered it. But it's, to me, it's so interesting that, yeah, it's fun to learn this kind of stuff. Because, yeah, that's how the story is revealed. I mean, this is one way you decipher it.
There are so many lessons there. I mean, it's amazing that you're not able to find more papers about this very specific site. I mean, like you said, somebody could do a doctoral thesis just in this one spot.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And, well, you know, some of the criticism I got from Bjornstad, where I forget what he said that I had wrong about this. He said that Jim O'Connor in his paper had addressed that, but I think that it had to do with the hiatus between these separations. And, you know, I did read the O'Connor paper years ago, and I don't remember exactly what his conclusions were, so I need to reread it. But that was the main question I raised last week, or the last episode, was how much time elapsed between the deposition of these two sedimentary regimes right here. The question I raised was, well, if there was any substantial lapse of time, there should have been a whole, you know, layer of vegetation that had, you know, even if it was, you know, and it wasn't at the time. I mean, you can see there's vegetation up here on the top that's growing. Well, the thing is that this is a semi-arid environment now, and there's enough. Now, if you were to come here and dump mud on this right up here and entomb this vegetation that's up here,
Too lucid. I need
and
to
then
get.
dump another 50 feet of mud on top of it, and the mud all dries out, you come back later and do a core sample, you should see some remnants of this organic layer, this topsoil layer that's up here. Now, if we go back to when this loess was, or this period here, Okay, if there was a period of time, let's say a decade or a century or two between these, then there would undoubtedly be vegetation growing. Maybe even trees, because at the time this is going on, this is not a semi-arid environment. In fact, we're even talking about the fact that there would have been a lot of rainfall, right? So unless the rainfall was so erosive that it somehow prevented, the development of a normal biome, because typically here's what's going to happen. You guys have probably seen this yourself. Let's say you have a flood and it destroys everything, or it creates a new sandbar or a gravel bar or whatever. I could take you right down to the creek here near where I live that I've been monitoring for decades, and like in the aftermath of Hurricane Ivy, there were new point bars built, right? Now, as long as nothing comes along that is now that is forceful enough to erode those, nature starts recapturing. And you can come back 4 or 5 years later and you've got seedlings of trees growing, right? So my whole point is that I think there are still questions that could be raised about the depth, the interval of time between the deposition of these two layers here. And that's what I want to know, because was it centuries? Was it decades? Or was it something very, very close in time? And the other thing is, were there Missoula flood deposits before the Bonneville flood deposits? Because if there were, what is going to happen to those Missoula flood deposits once the Bonneville flood comes through? Well, they're all going to be flushed out. They're gone. They're going to be just completely flushed away by the currents that created this down here. See, any current that's going to be carrying this coarse material here is going to make short work of something this fine. So if you had layers of the
playing a minute,
Missoula
I'm
flood
just gonna take a bite.
back flood sediments first, then the Bonneville flood sediments come through, they're gonna either flush it out or bury it. So the question is there anything, if you were to core down through these, what are you gonna find underneath the Bonneville? Is it on bedrock? I don't know. Is there another older sedimentary layer from earlier floods? I don't know. So this is our project for next summer, guys. We need to go out here with a core driller and
No, we can do that.
yeah, we can do that. Mike, could you get on that for us?
Get us a core driller, Mike.
Sure.
The drill core?
Couple of backhoes. Bulldozer.
Yeah.
And arrange for transportation and,
That's right. Yeah.
Well, and then you got the loess up on the top. And the thing that's unusual about loess compared to ordinary sediment is ordinary sediment.
Thanks for being
like
here.
this
I will
is
play in a
water
minute. 1
deposits.
second.
I mean, virtually all your sedimentary rocks most of them are water deposits, ultimately, right? Sandstones, limestones. Now, sandstones, of course, can be wind. But, let me say this, fluid deposits, right? But you look here and you see horizontality, and you look at the loess and you see verticality. You see that? And that's what's unique about loess is it has this sort of this cohesive structure where it forms these vertical, it has this vertical architecture to it. And it's also quite cohesive. It can be hard, almost semi-cemented. And so the controversy is all along have been there are two camps. Well, is it wind that deposits the loess, or is it water? I think wind generally is the more favored explanation now. My thought is, well, why not both at the same simultaneously? The thing that I would, again, we should get into a whole podcast about this, is that I think the loess, the possible, and I'm not proclaiming this as any final conclusion, but from what I've seen with my limited studies of loess, is I think the possibility that actually loess could be created, what you might almost think of as a mud storm. In other words, you got a rain, but the rain is literally so choked with fine dust and material that it's coming down as drops of mud. And since you've got about 5 or 6 feet of that, And we know that even 6 inches of volcanic ash can turn day into night. This must have been a pretty interesting sequence of events that you see displayed right here. And there's no inference that necessarily the 5 feet of lust that you see up here was all there was, because any lust that's raining down during the floods is going to get just immediately swept up and integrated and incorporated into the floodwaters. And it's only the lust that's going to be preserved that you see here is only going to be in the aftermath, the post-flood period, after that last layer of mud up here from the back floods has been deposited.
Pardon me.
And then the spigots are turned off. There's no more water coming from the north down the Cheney Palouse, hitting the Snake. And at that point now, this stuff that forms the lust layer is coming out of the atmosphere and begins to deposit. So then the question becomes, what was the duration of the depositional event that created that 5 feet of lust? Was it years? Was it a day? I think it's probably closer to being a couple of days. Because if it was separated by any hiatus, then you should see bedding in there. I don't think there's any bedding. It looks like it was deposited en masse. So somewhere subsequent to the deposition of the final top backflood layer, this stuff came down. 5 feet of it. So boys, think about that. Some pretty serious stuff going on here.
Yeah. So, in terms of the missing biological stuff between Bonneville and the Missoula floods.
What? Come on.
Wouldn't the Missoula floods have washed it away, or are they just the sediments show you that it was too gentle to?
Too gentle.
Okay.
Yeah, too gentle. There's very little shear. I mean, because in this next slide, this is literally just around the bend. This kind of deposit. And here's what you're seeing. When you're looking at this stuff up here, you're seeing current reversal. You're seeing water look, see this? Here's the water slowing down, almost vertical, even with a slight
Come
up
on,
tilt to
it
it.
ain't my input.
Here's the water
Damn it.
flowing back out.
Yeah, you're going way too slow, too gentle. So if there were trees there, it would have just washed around them and dropped.
They should be, there should be a whole layer of biological stuff there.
Yeah, okay.
That would show up seeds or pollen or leaves. Hell, we got leaves that are 50 million years old that were preserved in low energy depositional environments. So there should be that stuff. So that's what I was saying, like Brad just said, yeah, you could do a whole doctoral dissertation on this one outcrop and the stories it has to tell, because now you're bringing in that whole Bonneville event, you're bringing in the whole Missoula flood channel Scabland event, then you got the lust to explain, and then the fact that, when you start going through some of these deposits, not right here, but in a lot of other places where these floods have been excavated, they find megafaunal remains. So, not only trees are getting swept up in these floods. So yeah, and then we talked about this, we ended up, I think, with this, the rapid canyon formation by extreme floods, which is out by you guys. Didn't we talk about that? The lost, Canyon Lake Gorge, yeah. So,
It's a good run.
yeah,
Good
we
run.
gotta do a field, I think there's gonna be a field trip coming up soon.
You gotta get out there, but gotta get through cleaning season.
Right.
What?
When are you guys freed up?
I swear to God, my bullet
It's
hit
gonna
him.
be
I
after
swear to
the
God.
trips.
I swear to God, my bullet hit his leg. At least.
Well, I mean, how far is it from you guys? It's not over an hour or two drive, right? You might be able to sneak away for one day. Maybe? Okay, well, we'll see. But I think that we need to check that out because there's a modern example.
Yeah, definitely. We gotta do that.
Let us proceed on something we'll be getting into here All right. So you see what we're looking at here? Glacier dam lakes and outburst floods.
Yo, if I want to see the pillow.
Okay, so in the spirit of uniformitarianism, one of the things we'll do is we'll circle back and we'll look at some of the examples of modern.
Wow,
glacier
dude, that looks
dam
baller, man.
outburst floods, also called
That looks so comfortable.
in the Icelandic terms.
Looks
they're often
amazing.
being used to compare the floods that created the Channel Scablands. Now,
It's all one piece. Nice.
but
Yeah, I
even
have
though
I have a
don't
cheaper
necessarily
memory
think
foam
we can
one that I use like that.
from
Yeah, it's not
modern
that fancy, though.
examples up to what we're about to look at, we can still learn a lot. It's going to give us insight. So we'll see here. I'm just going to go to slide sort review. You can see what we'll be getting into some of this, looking at modern examples of outburst floods. Because these modern examples, we'll get into a little bit of paleohydrology, not anything too serious, but just enough. For example, Q, which is peak discharge, we're looking at right here. It's pretty simple, and basically anybody who watches it should be able to go out then in the afterwards and walk down to a local creek channel and use the formula and figure out average discharge or peak discharge, which is a cool thing to do. You go down, so you go to a stream channel after a flood, and you look for the typical suite of high water features. And there's usually a whole 4 or 5 different things that you can look for, from erosional strand lines out along the creek. Look for, if the water has gone up out of the channel onto the floodplain, it'll usually leave a layer of sand, or even sometimes debris. Maybe if it's a lot of leaves or twigs or things floating, you'll be able to see that. You'll be able to get the high water mark, and then you get what's called the hydraulic
It's over. That guy's gonna
radius.
shoot me way too much.
And you get the
It's
channel
fucked over.
perimeter, and you simply use a couple of
I
formulas.
swear
You put
my
in a formula.
I need a fan on my friggin' before I swear to God it gets so hot and it lags so much.
And there's simply a table that you can look at
So
because
much.
the greater
Not even memeing.
resistance is the greater potential there is for turbulence in the water. So turbulence
I might even
just
turn on the other
kicks in.
bigger one.
So it's somewhere
That should
the
be okay,
water
though.
flow will be uniform and laminar, and then at some point it starts becoming chaotic, and then it crosses a threshold.
And
and
AC
you
in the
start
room,
getting
yeah.
turbulence. But it's a pretty simple formula.
Nice,
to
man.
use, and then
That's
it'll
awesome,
tell you
buddy.
what
Congrats,
Q is.
dude.
Q is the letter that stands for peak discharge in a flood. So, or in a river, or whatever. So if I use Q, and I mentioned, yeah, we're calculating the Q. I'm not talking about QAnon. I'm talking about Q, that's peak discharge. In a flood.
964 is
Just
so
we're
laggy
clear
right
on
now.
that.
Like,
Got it. But yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. And some of these modern examples are really interesting. So we're going to look at some of that. So that will really give us a helpful framework to going back and thinking about the mega floods that we're going to be looking at in the next couple of episodes. So now, Brad here is sitting at the south end of, almost at the south end of Grand Coulee.
oh my God, it's so much smoother now. I'm
And
not
this
even
is not
leaving.
Soap Lake. This is
Like, I'm not even lying, guys.
the next lake.
What?
north,
How did I not pick it up? What? Because he's not dead.
by the ice caves.
Ice caves up the road over there.
Yeah. I know that's right. I don't know. I don't remember the name of that one. I must be getting senile. Lenore Ice Caves, Lenore Lake, of course. Now,
Dude,
you know,
I
there's
forgot
a-
how
there's
friggin'
a
hard this
rock
level is, man.
there somewhere.
This level's so hard.
But I find that's very interesting. There's a rock bridge, and that rock bridge or rock arch was totally accepted.
Like, I've been
as
thinking
having
about it all
been
week,
created
and now I'm
by
playing. I'm like, dude, this is way harder than I remember.
floods. So I've seen very little on the origin of rock arches. But that's
What
another
the
question
fuck?
that we're going to be bringing up and considering. is
That actually
how
killed
those
me.
rock arches are formed.
Dogger 24, 24, 20.
Near Lower Grand
Yeah, it's up there. It's right up there.
I
near
hope
the
he's
North
okay,
Caves.
man. I don't know. Like, I was thinking about him like today.
Yep.
I'm like, dude, I hope he's like okay.
Upper track, also the lower track that we couldn't get into.
What are the caves? They're in the.
Yo, how about Cali getting Surface 101? That was insane.
Salt. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Now, let's. So what I'm going to do is share screen again. Yeah, there I got the map up. Now.
I don't know if you noticed IRL too,
Right
but the
here,
pandemic
this is
changed
Salt
for
Lake
most for the
right
worse
at the
mentally.
mouth. Right at the mouth of the Coulee.
Yeah.
And immediately north.
Oh, for sure.
Is
Pretty
Lenore
sad,
Lake.
man.
Now let me see. Let me go back. Brad, you are. Where did you go?
Doing too well near the end.
Okay, so
Are you serious?
you are in that map.
I just saw he was
go
streaming
ahead
a
and
lot of his
wave?
music. He was playing music and making music.
Oh no, I have to have Google Earth, and we're not going to see the map. I have to pull up Google Earth.
I saw he was drinking a lot.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
drinking.
Look at the ledge behind Brad there. You see that flat ledge, Russ?
Yeah, I was thinking about
But
that too.
You're still looking at my map, right?
I'm looking at your map and I can see Brad.
And you can see Brad. Okay. Well,
But
what
I
I'll
drank
do-
a lot when I was younger
Check,
too.
see that ledge right there?
When I was like 20s,
Is
30s.
over it. No,
Ew, I
stop
can't believe I said my
there.
20s. Ew, I'm that old.
Yep, there it is right
I'm a
there.
boomer. I'm a boomer playing this,
Kyle made a pretty
this
good
poor
guess.
auto
He
aim
pointed the
level.
spot on the map where he thought Brad was at. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. But it was based on those.
Seems like everyone in his last two streams getting yeah, I saw
erosion
that.
features at the very top. I was looking at that little dog leg that the road does right there.
Hanging valleys up there.
Yeah.
This right here, yeah.
Hanging valley, so.
Now,
We
generally,
totally need
hanging
social
valleys, most textbooks are going to be
interaction,
explained
man,
as
we
the
do.
result of glacial erosion,
No man is an island.
which of course is true. But in this case, it's
And yeah,
Yeah,
like he
flood
fucking
erosion.
like it's I can't
so
even
during
imagine the
rainstorms, each one
the
of
emotional,
these little troughs up here becomes
like-
a spigot with water spewing out and a temporary waterfall.
are now alcoholics. Wow, really?
Behind me here,
That's
How
crazy.
often does that happen?
Yeah, thanks to you and your
well, it's
suggestions, I
just
stopped
7 or
drinking, right?
15 About 15 inches per year. No, but it does happen.
Right.
You know, maybe a few times a year, I guess. I don't know. Enough rain where it turns into waterfalls, but it definitely does.
Frig, man, this level's so hard,
So
man.
yeah, that's Lower Grand Coulee, and then we go back to
We're also ready for a break here. If you want to do that at any point, and we can come back and get back into it.
oh, okay. Well, all right, we'll just take another minute on the map, and then.
Oh, really?
So yeah, this is the Lower Grand Coulee, and that's Lenore Lake. And then when you go up here to this area, the image of me there, behind me is this whole Waterville Plateau up here, and that's where you find the big boulder part,
Man,
which is a really interesting phenomenon. Which, you know, is the next
Topical does the same.
couple of episodes as we're exploring the Scablands area. We'll look at Boulder Park.
Alcohol.
We'll speculate about how thousands upon
Interesting.
thousands of giant boulders got
Probably
strewn
not.
across the fields. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you see this right here?
The skin
That's
is
an erratic
pretty
boulder.
good.
And then out behind me here is the Waterville Plateau. That
I
was
mean, ethanol
completely
does
submerged
get
under
absorbed.
floodwater.
It does pass.
So
I think it does
during the
pass,
peak
like,
of
the
flood,
lipid
you see this
bilayers
mountain
of
range
cells.
in the distance.
I think it diffuses
This would
across
have
it.
been the opposite shore.
Could be wrong though. It's not.
of
It's not
this
actively
giant
transported.
temporary
Maybe in
river
like vesicles or
that was
something,
flowing
or
through this
vacuoles or
picture.
whatever.
Okay.
Whatever it's called.
Way out there.
Those
over your
intracellular
Way
vacuoles.
out there over,
your right shoulder,
no, this one.
But I think it
Right,
diffuses.
your left shoulder.
yeah, this right
So you
here.
might. I mean, I
It's a big
don't know the mechanism you're talking
Yeah,
about.
we,
No, I was gonna say, if you were, we're not seeing it.
yeah, you're gonna have to point with your fingers at the picture. 'cause
Well,
we-
that's what right
Yeah,
here,
okay,
that mountain.
Does it affect like telomeres
All of this behind
and
me.
replication in the
See, I'm
length
up on a ridge,
of telomeres?
and this boulder, where did it come from, and how did it get set on that ridge?
the ends of the strands of the DNA.
on your other
Holy
side,
yes,
the whole
exactly.
thing.
Oh my god,
This
that's crazy.
Right there. Okay, yeah. That one.
The edge, yeah.
That's scary stuff, man.
Okay.
Yeah, it probably just like affects everything, or it might target it. Speeds up the imaging. Oh yeah, through the loss of replication. Yeah, probably. It's like imagine trying to replicate DNA when you're like hammered. There's no way you're gonna do it. There's no way you're gonna successfully accomplish that task. You know what I mean?
means? It means that where I'm sitting, the southernmost
Can't just
extension,
stop and it
the
reverses. Yeah.
Okanagan lobe of the Cordilleran
Oh
ice
no.
sheet
Right,
over
because you lose the
western
telomeres. You
Canada,
can't build
the
them.
southernmost
You don't add
lobe
to them.
ended.
And if you'd add to them, it would just be like random. It'd be random chemistry. It wouldn't be
Looking north in this
selected.
picture?
We are
You're
looking
right.
east.
We would be losing genes. If you drink, you lose genes. Wow. Because you
We're
can't
up on
rebuild
the
it.
ridge.
Because it's not selected for through time.
There's a steep
It would just
slope
be
going
random
down almost
gibberish at the
2,000
end.
feet to the Columbia River.
Holy jeez, Dick.
So in fact,
Wow.
if I step forward about 3 steps, I would just plunge over the
All right.
precipice.
Let's see it.
That's crazy, dude. I never thought about
So-
that.
So I gotta step careful here, or I will take a break then. Then we would have to take a break, yes. Okay, well, let's take a break then.
All right.
It was a real eye opener, dude.
Be right
I
back.
bet. It is for me.
All right, we're back.
Damn it.
And before we get back into the material, of
Damn it.
course, we wanted to mention CBD from thegods.com. Randall, you've got an update on CBD from the gods?
Hold on, I gotta see.
Well,
I
as a
gotta
matter of
check.
fact,
I
I
have
do.
to check if I'm dropping frames.
They've sent
I'll check
me,
on my phone.
a sample of their flour to try. So, I'm gonna give it a try.
God, there's an update. Oh, God.
So, it's not intoxicating in any way. It's only got less than 0.3% THC. So it's totally legal.
Attaboy,
But
Randall.
it still has all of the full spectrum CBD components in it. So it's just another way of consuming it. So this is the Incan, like the
Oh, sorry, I
Incan
just saw your message now.
princess.
Mattress is so bad when you lay down and you could hear the springs go. Oh, dang. I have a foam one from. I think I have a spring and foam one from
100% organically
IKEA.
grown,
It's nice. It was
hand-harvested,
big. It was a big day when I got out of
slow
storage. It was in
cured
Brampton.
on the
It
stalk,
was a diamond storage in Brampton. I brought it home.
CBD hemp flour.
I'm using it now. It's
less
comfy.
than
Super comfy.
0.3% THC. It has a certificate of authenticity from the, well, let's see, excuse me for a second. By the, oh yeah, it's an authorized distributor of the Blue Moon Ranch.
I gotta
Oh,
see
yeah,
if I'm
Blue
dropping
Moon
frames.
Ranch. Hey, I think that we need to check that out at some point.
Once I found out that was
And
it.
that-
Yeah.
I want to see you read that to some South Georgia deputy sheriff.
No,
Who decides to pull you over?
well, it's in the bag, so you can read that lesson. So it's totally legal.
Yeah. Like I said, I want to see you convince some South Georgia deputy sheriff of that.
Normal guy is not impressed.
Okay, well, we'll see.
It looks just like the illegal
pretty
stuff, I
smooth,
think,
man.
problem.
It's pretty smooth.
Looks like it, but it doesn't smell like it.
Looks
and,
pretty good. That's pretty good
obviously-
for the stream.
Well, yeah.
Son,
I'm
you're gonna
happy with
sit
that.
here
That's
in our
good.
jail till we test this stuff, and it's
Nice.
gonna take 2-3 weeks.
I trust you, man. I trust you. I
Well,
trust your opinion. I trust your
Okay,
word.
so that could be. So if anybody
do.
listening is going through South Georgia,
But I had to check myself.
take this instead, which is the gummy bears.
Randall.
So yeah, if you're worried about sheriffs in South Georgia, you got the new gummy bears. I haven't tried one. It just came in today.
They're like little wedges.
That's gonna be me in the future, man.
Okay,
I'm
this is
telling you,
first.
it's gonna be
I'm just
me
seeing this for the first time now.
Pushing gummies. Actually, no. Probably sugar-free gummies.
Pretty delicious.
I'm not into that gummy stuff. Protein
Let's see
gummies.
what
Can you
the-
imagine? Protein THC gummy bears.
CBD from the Gods gummies.
I think I'm onto something.
Container
Make it out of, like-
contains an assortment
Yeah.
of 4.
Protein balls
an
of, like,
assortment
THC.
4 mouth-watering flavors: tangerine, pear, strawberry lemonade, and cherry lime. Each gummy weighs a generous 6 grams
Oh.
and
Wow.
carries approximately 10 milligrams.
Protein
of a very
gummies, they
popular
suck. Oh.
Oregon-grown.
Have you had protein
full-spectrum
weed
hemp
gummies?
extract. So I'm going to give this a try. What I'm going to do is I'm going to
Kinda
actually add
grainy.
it to the liquid drops. I do this before I go to sleep. I think what I'll do is I'll pop one of these for dessert after lunch.
So take one right now. Let's see what happens.
Really?
Oh my god, this is
Okay.
such a good run.
Hey,
This is such a good run.
I'm willing to
Real
take
life
risks.
science,
Come on.
folks.
I'm
Real
bold.
science on the show.
I'm bold. I'm brave. I'm willing to take risks. All right. I think I will take.
Yo, this is the run. I'm not even memeing. I'm not even memeing.
Take a cool little. Hey, is this modeled after one of the
Yo, this run is like really good.
UFOs? Look, from the sky.
It's a really good run.
They don't make noise.
Oh, they don't. Okay.
Is it any good? How's it
Silent
taste?
lozenges.
Strawberry lemonade?
What flavor was that?
I think
You have the strawberry lime there.
that's what that is. Excuse me. It's a bit chewy. Well, it is a gummy, right? So
Well, yeah, so.
it's supposed to be chewy.
Fuck off. I messed it up. I don't know why I changed strafe there. It wasn't the run anyways. Let's see the pace. I don't know. I shouldn't have changed strafe.
Isolate, TBD oil, which is a much milder form.
It was slow anyways, but
So go check out their products.
I shouldn't have changed strafe.
Order something, put in the promo code RCShips3 for free shipping. It helps out the podcast in the U.S. That's right, not to Mars or the moon.
wow, this run.
But yeah, it helps out the podcast, and we thank everybody who has patronized the CD from the Glass.
Absolutely. Yeah, actually,
Brutal.
I think that was the cherry lime. There's just a little hint of the CBD flavor, which I've actually kind of grown to kind of like. At first, the CBD flavor, it's like anything.
Ooh, I'm getting that tingly feeling in me again. I'm getting that Aztec 00 tingly feeling in me. You know what I mean? In your like heart and soul. Taking the car in for service soon. Going to slap on some mid-range rodents all season. Nice, buddy. Dude, that's great, man.
I do eat onions.
great idea.
Love onions.
Saying it's an acquired taste.
It's an acquired taste, yeah. And I think I've sort of acquired taste. So, boy, I'm okay. Wow.
Dude, gas is so expensive now, man.
Uh-oh. Hang on.
Yeah, some Martins. Yes.
Okay.
3 steps back from the club.
Whoa, that's way too expensive. You're getting it at
Yeah,
the
so-
dealership?
Just so people know, right here in front of me, behind me is the water.
No, at the dealer?
But in
Or
front
at,
of
like,
me
a
right
mechanic,
here,
fuck
it
that.
drops
Yeah.
down 2,000 feet.
Oh, at the dealer. Wow. How much are they charging per tire? Out of curiosity.
So, just so everybody appreciates the danger that we put ourselves in to do these podcasts. If I were to suddenly stumble forward, I would plummet down the escarpment.
200 for mid-range Firestones per tire.
And you would confine me out in the Astoria fan out in the Pacific Ocean.
Does that include
But I'm not going
installation?
to do that because we have to deliver this information. So let's do that. Let's keep
Just hope
going.
the dog doesn't knock the
Yeah,
green
that's
screen
Spawn's
into your
right.
back and
Firestones.
fall forward.
Firestones are
Just
fucking
tie
great.
a bungee cord to your feet.
They're like one of the best.
There we
You
go.
know,
Yeah, because that could happen. I mean, the dog could
Bridgestone,
come
Firestone.
barreling through here,
those are like the
knock
best.
the green screen right into me, and then
That's a
I
great
fall
price.
back, or I
Includes
get
it all,
down,
that's
I get
good.
knocked
That's a
forward.
price.
That's it.
That's it.
What about alignment and balancing?
Dams.
It must. They must. If they're gonna do new tires,
Yeah,
you gotta
that's true.
align
I
and
wouldn't- I
balance it.
wouldn't think it would.
Yeah, includes it
What
all.
I'm going to do
How many dams is it?
Nice, buddy.
How many dams are there?
depends on where you
That's
start.
in it too. Nice. That's pretty good.
Probably half a dozen of them from there, at least. 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
That's great, man.
And I'm gonna.
Dude, I'm warming up, man. I am warming up. It's like starting to become a lot more natural now.
Where I am sitting, I'm gonna get the picture here. Now can we see the map? Yeah. Oh, cool. This, you see where the
not
water
dead.
started spilling over right through this constriction right here. Spill down in this. You can see it channelized right here, and then it deepened to channel right here as it's making its way down to the plummet.
She's
So,
brand on there right now called Cooper.
this picture was taken somewhere right
Oh,
here at the top
no.
of this area, this ridge right
Oh,
here.
after you bought the
behind
car?
you, You're looking
Yeah.
out over all of this. And the mountains you
Cooper.
see in the far distance.
Are you sure it's
are
not
these mountains
copper?
over here.
As in like cop?
So I'm sitting right in this area. And behind me, you're looking across. You'd be looking in a direct line from either of those mountains. You know, you'd be hitting the top end of Grand Coulee.
What is that? 15 miles.
Let's see. Yeah, you're for a scale. If you go from Grand Coulee up here by the dam down to Salt Lake, that's about 52 miles.
Okay.
So you can use that as a yardstick. So the deposits we were just looking at are right down here. Clarkston in Washington, Lewiston in Idaho. The deposit we were looking at is right in here. Let's see. Yeah, so all of this in here.
Brutal.
If we go to
Brutal.
the Google Earth, we should be able to see it a bit. And I'm going to zoom in, and yes. See all
Oh my
this in
god,
here?
let's go. Let's go.
That's the gravel
What?
pit.
Are you serious?
And
Are you serious? Oh, that was actually kind of
uh,
fast.
That picture was taken. That
It might be
particular
close.
outcrop,
At the top.
right in
I
here.
love this level, man.
It's right
I love this. I love everything about this.
Oh, right here, yeah.
it's more light colored gray there.
Yeah, yeah.
What?
right in
Did
here.
it
So,
go too soon?
I believe this is the outcrop right here. Yeah, pretty sure, because remember there was a
Should've
gravel
done this
road
last
and
time.
So yeah, that outcrop is this thing right here.
But you guys said it's
So
been
shit about the
taken
tires
from
F-250.
wood, so it's
Yeah,
Oh
make sure you
my
put-
god.
there because they just keep digging it back.
Yes.
Too dangerous.
So go back to
Did you buy them new?
It's kind of been fenced off.
Did you buy new tires? Or it was on the car?
It definitely looks different than the first time we went there.
Yeah, I have pretty
well,
bad.
okay,
I have
so they put a
Safeway
marker
tires.
there, Brad, to commemorate
Awful.
our visit. You see that? Right there. The vault toilet.
They came new with the car.
That was us.
That was us. Yeah.
Damn.
Okay, so
The
that,
police cannot be using
that's
those
on
tires.
inside
The police
bend,
cannot be
so
using
it's-
those
it's
tires.
the bar, right? So was those same sediments on the far side?
There's no way they're using those
We
tires.
haven't gotten that close to the river on the other side. So yeah, it's not like it's a terrace, but it's just on that inside bar.
We're using.
Which is pretty much, yeah, I mean, it's the inside bends
Oh my
and
God, my
meanders
door,
where
my
you get the
stupid door.
gravel bars and the point bars deposited. So that's
Alright, one
exactly
second,
right there. That's what I was talking about. The bend, there's a bend in the river.
I'm
right
gonna use a
there.
washing machine. I'll be back. One
So
second.
when we go back here, you see this. This is where the Bonneville water, flood water, was coming all through this canyon here. So
Yeah, so there's a bar right there too, right? At that pin you just passed. You can see it.
right
Yeah,
here,
there, Yeah.
looks like it. Yeah. Yep.
And
That's
and one above that.
Well, yeah, and just north of there. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and
there.
right here.
Yeah.
So because think about this, and this comes up in the discussion of understanding the geomorphology, is that when the water is flowing around, it's like all the water molecules, kind of like they've got this affinity for one another, and they want to stay together. And so what happens is, think about this: if you're running on a track and you're in a race around the track, you want to stay as close to the inside track as you can get, right? Because if somebody on the outside of the bend is going to keep up with somebody on the inside of the bend, they actually have to be running faster, don't they? Well, it's the same with the water molecules. You know, you're going around the bend, so as they're going around the bend, out here the water molecules are moving faster than they are on the inside. So that delicate balance between, and think about this, because the outside bend, what it's doing, it's eroding, right? It's creating a cut bank where it's steep. On the inside, even with that differential in the velocity across.
Yo, it feels great to be back
the width
playing
of the
GoldenEye,
creek,
man.
the river,
Great,
stream,
great.
whatever
It feels
it
great
happens
that
to
you're
be.
back to be chatting
You've
with
got,
Dick.
on the one
the
side,
man, dude.
erosional, on the other side,
Copsy's
deposition.
Bridgestone's a good year, oh, for sure.
So
I think only to
even that
pursuit
subtle
rated.
difference
Dang.
in velocity within a single
Pursuit
stream
rate, what are you
could
rated?
be the difference between erosion and
Used rated?
And
Cooper?
that's why
Fuck the police,
you
man.
will always look at the curve in a creek, and barring differences in bedrock lithology or composition, the normal
I can picture it in my
is
head.
going to be
Like,
erode the
it's
outside,
sure it's public
deposit on the
funds,
inside.
okay, it's public funds, whatever.
And likewise,
But it's like I could
let's say you're
see
just
like
looking
the
at a straight
budget,
channel
like they
and that
have
water's
to
flowing through
they
there.
have to probably source like
water
3
layer
different brands
that's in
from different
contact
locations
with the channel
because it's the protocol, and then they choose the
perimeter
cheapest
itself
one because it's
is going
just
to
the
be moving
fucking
the slowest.
it's shice.
Because there's going to be the greatest amount of friction. Like here,
Safeway
light
is like
flashing in the
okay to
sky.
last you a year or two, but
I don't know
man,
if you guys are picking that up.
I
I guess there's a storm moving in. But I'm not hearing the thunder yet, but I'm sure we'll be hearing peals of thunder soon enough. Okay,
It's
so
on
we've got
my,
the channel, the water's moving through
it's
that
on my
channel.
only rims I
The
have.
slowest
These Safeway
flowing
tires, and
water is the
I
water
was scared
that's
last winter to put the
being
winters
slowed down by
on
the
because I'd have
friction
to either buy new rims for the
generated between the contact of
the winter
flowing water
steelies
and
or
the channel boundary.
take the risk
That
of
makes
trying
sense?
to take off the
Now,
friggin'
as you move
Safeways
outwards from
with them
there,
possibly rupturing.
the velocity of the water is going to increase because obviously the shear forces
Ridiculous.
that generate the friction are greatest on the margins, and then as you move towards the centers, there's a zone of maximum acceleration.
It's too far away.
So
I gotta
the
bring this
water,
closer. I gotta bring it
typically,
closer.
in a cross section of a stream or river, the water, barring the effects of turbulence and everything else, just in smooth, uniform type flow, the water
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
here we
middle is
go.
going to be
It's better.
moving faster,
Nice and close.
then it falls off in velocity
Nice
as
and
you move
close.
from the middle out to the margin.
I'll fix
Makes
the
sense?
video.
Now,
Bridgestone
it's
first.
that is
No,
why
that's
you
tire.
get horseshoe
Oh,
cataract.
this is like in my wheelhouse
Look
right
at
now,
that
baby.
second. So
I feel like
let's
I
go
am
back
Golden. I am
to
James
the
Bond.
screen share. Okay. So we're going to look at the Cheney-Palouse Scabland tract because this is the easternmost of the Scabland tracts, and it's the water that carved the Cheney-Palouse Scabland tract that put those backflood silts on top of Tammany Bar, sandwiched between the Bonneville Gravels and the Luss, right? That's where that stuff came
Bridgestone
from. It came
represents
from
Bridgestone
the
Firestone.
Cheney-Palouse.
Removed from service.
So a
10
lot of
years.
that was actually Luss
Oh
originally.
wow, that's crazy.
That
That's
was
amazing.
deposited over the basalt plateau. So now when we go to the Cheney-Palouse, that's this, right here, right? So, again, as I said last week, what you're seeing here is the dark basalt that's showing through the light-colored lush. And move you guys out of the way. So picture this water coming down in this direction from the area of Spokane Valley, coming down this way.
Dang, if I can get something like that,
And
that'd be friggin'
There's a
amazing.
rim right here, right? This is a ridge right in here that separates. In other words, right here, if we could draw a line right here where my cursor is, to the north of that,
Fuck
it's
me,
sloping
man.
to the north. And it slopes down to the Spokane River right here and to the Columbia River right over here. This line right here marks where the change in gradient takes
Oh
place.
my god, will you please die?
So north of this line that I'm kind of roughly defining right here, it slopes to the north.
Can't believe they died.
South of that,
That was really nice of them.
The
I
south.
asked so politely,
So if you can picture water filling up, and then of course you have the mountains right up here. So in a sense, what you got right here is a low-lying region, a trough, if you will.
Like that. If I
Now,
can do
water
that
fills
actually
up
might be not
that
too
trough,
bad.
it
What?
rises
Come
high enough, which I think
on.
right in here is about 2,400
Man, that
feet above
sucks.
sea level. It spills over this divide, and then it flows, because from this point south, the basalt plateau tilts to the south. Are you following this? So once the water fills up this area to where it reaches that
What?
2,400 feet above sea level, elevation, what does it do? It starts spilling over.
Wow.
And it flows south. And as it's flowing south, it's sweeping away 100 to 200 feet of lush topsoil that has accumulated on top of the basalt, underneath the underlying basalt. The water flows down, and then it hits the Snake River channel right here. Now, when it hits that Snake River channel, what it does is this: hits the Snake River channel. South of the Snake River, there's an upland, there's higher hills. The water hits there, and then it diverts. It bifurcates into two flows. One flow would be the normal flow, which is, again, the Snake River is flowing from right to left here, from east to west. So now this water is flowing to the west here, but there's so much water coming in that it literally reverses the flow of the Snake River. Now you see this is the Palouse River coming right in here. So I'm gonna now stop share, go back to the map.
Really?
Not there. To the map, Randall, to the map. There it is, okay. Here comes the Cheney Palouse down. So look, up here by Medical Lake, you can see that's the divide. So north of there, the gradient is dropping. South of there, the gradient is dipping or tilting to the north. This line that's coming across here, south of there, the gradient dips to the south. So if this area fills up with water up to the 2,400 feet above sea level, it can spill over.
Oh my
divide.
god, this run.
On the other hand,
Dude, this
if
run
the
is
ice
so
has filled
fast.
this up, doesn't matter, it's going to be the same thing. The water
Oh my
coming
god,
off the
come
ice.
on.
And I'm sometimes thinking that's what it is. I'm thinking that this actually marks
It's not
the
that
southern
fast
limit
anymore.
of the ice load. So if the water's coming directly off the ice load, you can
There's
actually
no way
see
he's
as we
alive.
zoom in. You know, look what's happening. Look what's happening right here.
What?
You see now here, you see an erosional channel. Well, this is starting. This is the head of the channel, and it's flowing south. Here, this is flowing north or northeast. See, so right in here, if you're standing here, you're kind of at the high water. I could go into Google Earth and you could get the absolute elevations. But see, here's the Spokane River. So right here, look at this. Okay, start out. See right here, you've got the beginning of it in the channel head right here, and then the water flows down this way. And flows down this way and becomes part of the much greater complex of erosional features. And look here, look at the loess, how it's been shaped. This is, again, like 200 feet of topsoil all in here. And we can see something interesting very here. This is Crab Creek Coulee. And what you see right here, this is water coming down to Cheney Palouse, which was right here. You can go up here and you can see, look, here's the head of this channel. Here's the head of another channel. So right in here is where the direction changes. And that's important to understand here in trying to decipher what happened. So I'm inclined towards the idea that there was ice filling this area. And what we're seeing here is the water discharging off the ice load and then hitting the area just south of the ice margin and beginning to erode the loess away. And then it gets down to here, and look at this texture. Look at this. I mean, this is textbook Scablands
on.
right here. Butte and basin topography. So this is all sculpted by these intense water flows
What the?
that are pouring over the land from multiple. Look, you got the flow.
How come
here,
2021
you
we
got another
still
flow
don't have
here,
a
you got
fast
a
way to
flow
do
here,
laundry?
You got a flow over here, and then up here,
I don't know,
all
man.
These are flowing. in
Soap
different
and water
like
is
these
like OP,
channels,
man.
They're flowing to the north.
I like it. I
And
like
then,
laundry.
But then look here. This is flowing to the south. Then you come over here and here's the
Fuck off.
Telford. But we're going to follow this Cheney Palouse south. And you can see here, I mean, look at this. I mean, here's the lush topsoil that's still intact. But look, you can see
What?
it
How's
had
he
a
alive,
great
man?
meltwater stream that came down this way. Tremendous amount of turbulence and frictional forces that it's generating. This rock lake occupies a deep scour
Chambers
trough
and
that was
individual
just excavated
backlit or
by the-
something?
by the turbulent
Yeah, but what about like
waters
this like
rushing
sweat
through.
and stuff?
Strips away 200 feet of topsoil.
What about,
and then it
like,
goes to work right on the bedrock itself. And then it begins
smelling and
plucking
stuff?
pouring and gouging
Perfect
out the edges.
timing.
So once all of this is over with, then a lot of these bedrock troughs now have lakes in them. But that was their origin. Their origin of Rock Lake, for example, was profoundly violent event.
How ironic is it that
So we can follow that.
in
and look at
2023
these
we'll just
features here.
be
This is just
playing Perfect Dark?
totally mind-blowing to look at this. Now,
Hopefully.
initially,
That's my plan. I'm
you
knocking
see,
on all the wood
The whole
here.
landscape was submerged.
We'll make it.
So you've got, imagine a sheet of water flowing over the landscape, sculpting and shaping the loess, right? Now, so the loess is bearing the imprint of
And like soap is a surfactant, right? Like it breaks down the fats and oils.
the water
Like,
is then, and we've gone over this
how could you
process,
have that dry, or not dry, but like yeah, with like just UV?
to a channelized flow. So it'll find there'll be some
So you have the
zone
fats and the
where
oils and
water's
the soap as a
preferentially
surfactant
focused.
breaks it down,
and that will get the most erosive. So it'll start
and then you have the
eating
water to
down
wash that away.
through whatever the material, whatever the substrate is, it'll start eating down. And as it does this, it'll begin.
So if you could
capturing
have
more
something
and
that
more
could
of the water
clear-
that's flowing as the sheet.
I think that's what dry
Eventually,
cleaning is.
if it
Well, I
gets
don't know what
deep
dry
enough,
cleaning is
it'll
actually, to be
capture the
honest.
whole
Ah,
flow.
that sucks.
And then at that point, the
If you'd
water
have something
is
that
now
could
all
break down the
concentrated,
fats and
focused
clear it
into the
away,
can, and it can
a
really
mist of
begin
the
to
solution.
serious downcut. But what we're seeing here is the transition from the first
Could be onto
sheet
something.
flood into the channelized flow right here.
Or like the liquid doesn't get wet and it doesn't get absorbed.
Okay, look at this.
It just absorbs all the
Look at these
oils.
features here.
It's
This was
cotton
would
phobic,
have been initially
and it just
submerged,
absorbs all the oils,
but
and you
then
just put
as
it.
the- as
It's
the
like a
whole
slime.
flow
You just
sequence
shake it
proceeds,
around in
this
this
would
like
become an
ball,
island
and it's dry in
within
like
this massive
2 minutes?
raging river
and clean.
of incredible, almost unimaginable turbulence.
Leave 5 minutes and dry. Yeah.
And this river, of course, is sweeping every
Interesting, man.
the old pre-existing landscape. Boom, it
you're onto
doesn't
something.
stand a chance. This water is just literally
Eliminates
washing
dryers.
it away. And then once it does
You're
that,
onto
as you can
something,
see
man.
right here, it just starts eating its way right into the very bedrock. So,
The guy doesn't shoot me. This is so fast.
but
He shot me like right away.
I mean, look at this. So you can just trace the pathway of this water. But where's it ultimately going? Coming down
Bet you it
here,
exists. They don't want to make the industry.
Yeah. It begins
Well, let's think about it.
to
Like,
channelize. Look at here. Here's the beginning of a channel.
what could it be? Well, I mean, we're not like master chemists, right? Obviously. I know a bit about chemistry, but like we're not like master production chemists.
You know, probably what there was a pre-existing crack.
Could be like some sort of polymer. But polymers are pretty
And once
stable.
it did that, and we can
Actually,
see
polymers
here,
are actually
look
extremely
down
stable.
washed up in the coulee. You see here, this is the Palouse River.
It would have to be something that would.
The Palouse River
I think it would
comes
have to
down
be
this
like
way.
like maybe a
Along here,
fatty oil
the old
that
channel
was
flowed
hydrophobic.
Down here, this was the original channel.
Oils are
Palouse
hydrophobic, but it has to be
flowing
like
down this way. You can see, look right here, a little remnant of it.
the clothes would
It
have to
flowed
not
down right
absorb
in
it,
Here, and you join the Columbia.
and like cotton is like
When
it's not a chemical
the
structure,
Cheney
right?
Palouse
It's like fucking
floodwaters came
organic
down south of here.
structure.
The
That's why
pre-existing
it absorbs it, 'cause
divide
it's organic.
between The Palouse River,
But
which
polyester,
is this,
polyester
and the
also
Snake
would
River
too.
here,
That's not organic.
it was completely, this water was oblivious. to
Interesting
that.
question,
It
man.
completely overtopped it, right? So what happened? The water comes and overtops this whole upland area, the interfluve that separate.
Yo,
separate
B Rose is
the
going for
Palouse
damn
River
53.
from the
I
channel
saw
of the
his
Snake
sessions.
River. And then, like I said, it
Maybe
probably picked
on
out a
Friday?
fracture
No,
line
on
in the
Thursday?
bedrock, exploited that.
Dude,
cut
he got
down
so
this
many
deep
54s that I thought
channel
were
that is now
53s.
known as Palouse
It's
Canyon,
like New Match 6 days.
and
Nice, man.
then look what happened.
B-Row's got
And
so
then we have
many
some deposits here.
54s that I was
Palouse River
certain was going to be
got
53.
deflected out of
And
its
it's like, man,
original channel
on a while
it was
testing at
captured.
Sleep Country, nice.
by this newly formed, newly emergent
Like the commercial.
Palouse Canyon right here. And then it comes down and there's a major falls right here.
Yeah, man, working out
You
has helped
see
me
pictures.
sleep a lot
That
better.
particular falls,
Lifting
this is
weights has
where
helped me
James
like
Galooly
sleep like a baby.
at
It's
Palouse
great.
Palouse Falls State Park had his epiphany. Where he finally could no longer
Yo, you can do a lot with those
No
50 pounders,
longer
man. You can do flies, you can do
explain away
bench press, you can do incline bench press. That's pretty
finally
strong
had
on
to
the.
get in and go, yeah,
I find the
okay,
incline bench press,
I
it puts
see
too
it.
much strain on my
He
outer
fought tooth and
arm.
nail, but in the end
you know.
he gave in. And that's what a good
Comes
scientist
back,
is
she's like, it's so good, you fell asleep. I said, this is.
He mounted a great defense, but when he was defeated, he conceded with integrity, good sportsmanship.
That's funny, man.
Others like
Pretty
Richard
in-depth
Foster
into that
Flint.
story last time.
Yeah, so others like Richard
Congrats,
Foster
man.
Flint, who lost the argument, he was kind of a sore loser, and only begrudgingly in a couple
Yo,
of his
Angel,
last
what's up,
papers
man?
did he sort of
How you doing, man?
halfway admit
Welcome.
that, yeah, there's veracity to the mega flood account, but he mostly went to his grave never fully accepting the catastrophe.
You're gonna get jacked with these? Yo, for sure, man. You're gonna get more jacked.
So
Look at that on the right side of the screen. That was cloned there. There was a bunch of squares that were identical, so they covered up something like that.
Oh my god, will you just die?
Yeah.
See that? Yeah.
I've been noticing that all over the place.
Yeah, it's like tile. It's a bunch
Plateau to the 30, yeah.
of there.
That's good, man. That's good. You're, you know.
Yeah,
What's
they're
early
really
2020?
It's been everywhere.
Ah, Jim.
I was just thinking how clear some of these images are.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than when I've been perusing. But yeah, then I saw that.
Bicep curls are freaking so intense, though, man.
yeah, and then look at here, we got
Obviously,
another
you know,
major
you use
channel
them.
coming down here, and then the water comes rushing down here and hits this, and we can see what the water did to the opposite side, the south side of the Snake River, cut into it, and flowed up onto the uplands here, and let's see, carved a series of channels. Yeah, I think it overspills.
It might be
spillways
paste. It might be.
into this area.
Yeah, it's
where
not
the
anymore.
cannon is, right, the cannon is. So the water back flooded up to the cannon as well. So that would probably be a very interesting traverse to make. And we didn't we go up to Tucana a ways?
Yeah,
Look
we've
like
been
Superman.
by
Nice.
Starbucks.
Went downtown. Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. So,
Interesting stuff right along the side
I'm
of
laughing
the
just
road.
like, wow, that's great, buddy.
yeah, right.
Sediments, yeah.
I mean, you don't
So
want
when
to
the water
fucking.
hit here, it split. One flow went to the west, which
You don't
would
want
be
to
the
flaunt
normal
yourself in
flow
front of another
of the
dude's
snake, and
girl, I
we
guess.
followed its pathway down. And then the other flow back
But if you're with a fucking.
reversed the current of the Snake River.
hoe that's gonna
and it
look-
flowed all the
I'm
way
not calling
back
all women
up
hoes. I'm
here,
calling the ones that look at
all
guys
this
by the
way,
side
look
of
at
their
it,
man.
all this way,
Day hoes.
and then finally
That's literally the
settled
definition
out
of a hoe.
in this basin where Lewiston and Clarkston and Tammany Bar is right here, and when we go up into Tammany Creek, right here, that outcrop that I showed you should be.
Walking
right
around,
in
carpets
here.
under arms.
And that's where we
What?
can see actually the current reversed.
No, man, I shave, man. I shave mine.
So it shows
Shave my
us- shows
armpits.
us the Missoula floods.
You gotta
came
shave
up
your
here,
armpits. I mean, unless you're like
set
Muslim
it
or
somewhere
whatever.
in here,
You,
and then
you,
right
you
in
believe
this
in
area
not
of
shaving.
Hell's Gate State Park, the water reached its limit.
You
and
gotta
then
shave your armpits.
When it first reaches that
Actually, you
limit,
don't have to.
temporarily
Some
you
women
have
like
hydraulic,
the hairy ones.
damming downstream.
If you're a rip,
As
then
long
wipe your
as
it stings
water is
now.
continuing to flow down through the Cheney Palouse, this water
whatever,
is going to
man.
be backed up. Only when the
Are you getting
Cheney
ripped for
Palouse flows
for
have
men?
either
No.
ceased or declined enough that the water
How
that is
people walk
backed
with
up
arms
the
out.
snake can actually flow back out.
Oh, nothing but armpits.
So when we trace
Oh.
this back up,
TMI.
right up
Sorry,
into
dudes.
Spokane Valley, And we can actually keep following that water flow right up through the Spokane Valley, right here, right up through Rathdrum Prairie, which is where Victor Baker did his paleohydraulic work and concluded that the flow is coming through this area, right in here, Spirit Lake and Athol,
You do your thing, man.
Bayview, all of this coming through here.
Oh,
may have
wow.
as much as 800 million cubic feet per second.
I haven't seen like the general population,
About twice the flow of lake.
but
of
if that's
the
what you're
flow
saying in your
comes
area,
right
Dick,
through Lee. It's a hell of a lot of water, guys.
I mean, people can do
And where
whatever
did that water come from?
whatever they want.
Well, now
in
we
life.
get to some of the interesting
That's the beauty of the freedoms of life.
discussions about the origins of this flood. Now, the
Yo,
conventional
Eric, what's
view
up, man?
is
Thanks,
that
buddy.
all
Thanks,
of the
man.
water
Thanks, dude.
came through the Clark Fork Valley this way. Or has been for a long time. I think.
Yeah, like
some of the
physical,
more
like
conventional
education.
voids are
Physical
beginning to
education is
admit
really important.
that there
People,
were other
wow, it was like
sources of
perfect.
water. But for decades, the assumption
Like education
was
is
all of the water's
is
coming up
people
the Clark
like
Fork here.
don't know the
And this is
education of it.
The valley occupied
Even
by
the
Lake
food, like they
Monterey,
don't understand the biology and the
coming down
biochemistry of
through
like the
here,
food they consume. You know what I mean?
And I'm inclined to think that possibly
And it's not their
right
fault
down
because they're
here,
not
that row of
biochemists, they're
ice
not biologists. They're
ended right here. So at this margin,
Mhm.
it basically tapers to nothing, right? But as you go
yo, thanks, Eric.
up into the ice sheet, it gets thicker and thicker. And of course, the assumption is that right here, it has to be half a mile.
We've had some good runs. We've had some good runs.
Right? Because once you go into Clark Fork by the Cabinet Gorge Dam,
Universal healthcare, yeah,
right in
that's
here.
that's,
there it is.
that's
the
another
Cabinet
thing.
Gorge Dam is generally where the geologists will kind of roughly place the interface between.
You sound like a
ice dam
true
and the lake.
conservative, Dick.
But right there, the lake water, the high water mark is.
But I agree with you on that
above
point.
valley
Like,
floor.
it's insensitive that point, but I agree with you, like 100%.
Above sea level, the high water
About what other
indicators
people's
along the
ate if I
channel
didn't.
walls are at
Oh no.
4,200 feet above sea
Oh no, Dick.
So
I
what
gotta
that
add that
means
as a
is
quote.
because
That's
of
that's
the
a
fact
quote.
that, you know,
Oh, I
if
can't. I gotta write it all out.
the
Okay, I'm gonna
ice
write
has
that
to
one
be
out.
thicker than
Quote.
the depth
Oh
of the
no.
water because ice
No, I'm
is
not gonna add that
running
as a
through
quote.
93%
It's not.
density of water, so it becomes
Because the
buoyant.
people wouldn't understand that it's
So
not
you'd have to have a
bullying
minimum
people.
of, say, roughly a half
might take it the
foot,
wrong way.
half a mile of
But I know what you're saying, man.
right in this area, plugging
I agree
this
with you.
valley in order to.
That's. But I fear to agree with you because that's such a conservative like
2,100 feet deep
stance to take,
in the,
and I'm like the most liberal person. Like,
then of course the idea is that,
That I know.
water backs all the way up, and then you've got a major reservoir of Missoula lake water in here, which is now occupied by the Flathead Reservation. It's called the Mission Valley because these are the Mission Mountains. And then another very large.
but like people are gonna do what they're gonna want to do. They're gonna eat what they're gonna eat. They're gonna buy what they're gonna want to buy. Which is fine. That's cool.
Probably all the way down here in the pond. And all throughout here, 4,200 feet above sea level is the highest where the water rose at its maximum.
Maybe I'm not a liberal.
Okay. So when we look at Palouse, we're looking at a flow that appears to be
All right,
coming
let's focus.
right
Let's dig in.
from this valley, this trough right here. Right?
I gotta
Now, we're going to get
fucking
into
do
some of the
like
discussion
independent.
about the ultimate source of that, but when
I gotta
James
load
E.
fucking
Harvey,
like service one.
the geologist
Always
from
have
the
been?
Geological
Nice,
Survey,
man.
who's generally credited with the discovery of Lake Missoula, which was this lake filling these valleys all in here. He did a calculation, a peak flow calculation. He calculated Q.
In my late
Remember
teens, I was
Q?
super liberal.
Peak discharge. He calculated
Then I
Q
grew up.
right in here at Eddie Narrows, which was this area right in here. He used
Well,
this
the
straight
conservatives in this country are a bunch of fucking yahoos,
where you
though.
can get a nice cross
Like they're
valley
not like they're the
profile,
progressive
clear
conservatives. Like
high
they're just a
water
bunch of
mark.
they're like the
You've got
worst
a
of the worst, right?
gradient.
They're just like the pure
You've
Republican
got
Party, just
a
private
Manning's number,
prisons,
which can go in, which is basically
industry, everything,
coefficient
denies
of
science
roughness
and
that
all
can go in.
knowledge of everything,
That's
right?
all determined through empirical testing. You put
Which is
in
not
that,
true. Like
Manning's number,
traditional conservatism,
the
it's not at
coefficient
all.
of roughness, which is
It's a
measure of
bastardization of it.
and then
Bible
you make
thumping
that
weirdo.
adjustment, then what you end up with is Q. You end up with peak discharge. So he did that right in here. He came up with somewhere around.
I'm not laughing at if you're a Bible thumper and just at the comment. Living in Fantasyland.
400 million cubic feet per second.
Yeah, maybe I don't understand some liberals.
Just
Like
about.
Kathleen
Okay,
Wynne,
so
man.
now you have- and this
Kathleen Wynne was a
back
terrible
in the
premier of Ontario.
1940s when
She
he
spent
did
so much
that.
programs on
Now you have the
on
early
like
1970s, Victor
adver-
Baker
like
comes through and he
she spent
does
like
this
millions of
step
dollars on
backwater method.
advertising
It's
campaigns
somewhat more
for like
accurate
rights
way.
instead of
It's
actually like
cross
helping rights.
sections at
Like the
multiple
people that got the
places
money were like
through the channel profile.
like
And then you
CTV
adjust
and
for
shit.
changes in ratings and things like that. So it's a somewhat more, but it's not a whole.
And it was like public money.
factor
Holy shit, this is a great run. Come on.
for it.
For Kathleen Wynne.
And what happened was he measured right in here, came up with, like I said, around 800. Up to-
Brutal,
up to-
brutal, brutal.
Roughly double.
Terrible.
what
Too slow. It's too
Hardee
slow.
came up with through Eddie
It's too slow and I
Garrett
lost
right
too much health.
here. So now that
I mean, it
raises
might
to
be
me
like
the question,
145, maybe.
was either Victor Baker
Maybe.
or JT Carter
That was too slow
off
too.
by a factor of 2? In other words, if Victor Baker was right, and all of the water was coming through the Clark Fork Valley, then JT Hardee was off. He had a huge margin of error. He was only calculating.
Wow, that's pretty fast. That's pretty fast.
Right? Or there was an augmented source of water contributing to Victor Baker's calculation. And that source of water would have been right here. And there it is. I mean, there's an obvious source for it. So that becomes part of the discussion we're going to have. And it comes down to me, the whole question of sources. Where is the ultimate origin of this water coming from? Because for decades it's been, it's coming from Lake Missoula. Well, if you look at the calculations for maximum volume of water throughout here, in fact, it even they found evidence that the water at some point for a very short period of time rose up to about 4,250 feet. Okay, so depending on where exactly you take that determines the total amount of volume. So the calculations that took into 4,250 feet from sea level came up with over 600 cubic miles of water. A lot of damn water, right? Now, we're going to look at this because when we see the maps, we're going to see that we're talking about almost filling the catchment basin up to its rim. Well, in a catchment basin, you have a ratio between things that are going on, right? The rainfall that's falling, the amount of water being discharged into
Wow.
accumulated reservoir.
Wow.
And then you've got the evaporation, because as that water volume
You gotta
grows,
raise taxes
its
on junk food
surface
like they do with
area
alcohol,
expands.
tobacco.
As the surface area
Yeah,
expands,
I agree with you,
there's
man.
more evaporation.
But dude,
So typically,
they
what
don't
you're
care.
gonna have
Canadians
is
don't
you look at
care. Tim
most
Hortons?
modern lakes, particularly, lots of lakes.
Buying a donut at Tim Hortons is literally
What happens in a man-made lake?
Provide-
that's
like,
opened by a dam, if there's
you're
heavy
like
rains, they have to
accepting the
let off
murder.
some water.
Okay, this is gonna sound
What
ridiculous,
happens if
but it's
there's a
true.
drought?
You're
They don't let
accepting
any water out, but the
massive,
lake
widespread
level
global
drops.
warming, trees cut down, and the murder of like orangutans
So there's this equilibrium point that
in
that it will
Indonesia from the
oscillate
palm
above
oil.
and
It's
below,
Brazilian
above and
now.
below.
Wow. So it's just gonna be. We're just gonna be eating Brazilian
The whole
palm
thing is
oil now.
completely skewed.
So what was an
Because
Indonesian
it's
palm
like
is now
you
going to be
take the
Brazilian
catchment
palm.
basin, and the whole damn catchment basin is almost filled to the brim.
And guess where that's going to be from?
So the ratio
Cutting down the
between
Amazon
land
and
area
the Atlantic
where
rainforest in
rainfall
Brazil.
precipitation is falling,
Due to
and it's
Canadians
being
just
fed
becoming
into
more and more
into the
obese
lake.
and creating
It's
multiple
minuscule compared to the
sclerosis
lake.
at ridiculous
Where it should be
rates
the other way around.
while eating their canola
You
oil.
look at the Great Lakes,
Terrible.
or any major
Really
lake,
sad future,
the
man.
area of the catchment basin is always way bigger.
Don't
than
even go to
the
Tim Hortons, yo.
So, see, that to me tells
Nice,
me
man. Thanks, buddy. I
What
don't.
it tells me there is that Lake
Tim
Missoula
Hortons
was
is
probably never
literally
even laid in the sense of the word.
like
It
fucking
definitely get back into that idea.
Mr. Burns' Lisa's
See, the
Little
thing
Lisa's
that I'm getting at
slurry,
over and over again
ocean
is, okay,
slurry.
well, you can say, okay, Cheney Palouse
Dude, Tim Hortons
came down
is-
Spokane Valley. right?
Donuts pre-baked and
Valley
frozen?
water came out of
Because
the
they have to
port,
be, because it's
port was
oil.
draining all of these 600 cubic miles
It's
of water
it's
to fill
it's
the
just
mountains
oil. They
of
put the
western
maximum
Montana,
amount of
right?
palm oil that
Where
they
did
can
600
into it
cubic miles of water come?
before it
That's
like
getting-
melts.
You can't just kick
Stole
the
their
can
coffee
upstream
supply?
and
That's
say, oh,
crazy,
there's this
man.
big lake without explaining to me the origin of that lake.
It's fucked, man. It's like
And that water,
it's crazy, man.
that massive
And like
volume
the
of
the
water
the,
has to be
the
coming from
lineups, like the Tim Horton
what are the-
traffic
what
is
are the
worse than
possibilities
McDonald's or worse than
of where it's
Walmart
coming
traffic.
from? Well,
I'm not saying it's a
it's either
demographic. I'm just saying
precipitation or meltwater.
it's a type of
What
people.
else
So
is
yeah,
it?
it's a demographic.
If it's precipitation, it's either rainfall or melting snow. Okay, and if it's
But not a financial
also
demographic.
meltwater, that
A
means
customer
that
base
the
demographic.
glaciers are melting, right? There has to be a pretty substantial amount of melting to occur
Fast food coffee in Canada,
order
really?
to produce 600 cubic miles of water. Would that not imply that the glaciers are
Benefit of
receding?
retaining all premium
They're not-
locations
see,
provided by.
here's the idea now. The idea
Wow, so
is
they're getting
that this
Brazilian
ice
coffee
dam
too. It's just
failed,
gonna be
and then
yeah.
it came back and refilled the lake.
literally in
Then
the
the
Cerrado
water was
and
high
the
enough, the dam
Amazon
failed
forest like
again,
cut down
It came
100%.
back and refilled the lake.
Lineups are just convenience
And did this
based.
a minimum of 40, maybe as many as 90 times if this cycle repeated. Okay, so here's my problem.
Retaining
if you're
premium
filling
locations
the
prior to
lake,
the buyout.
You got to come up with a source of water.
Oh.
Rainfall, snow melt, or ice.
Ah.
Which is it, or is it a combination?
The bait and
No
switch,
matter
the
which
sell,
scenario, which
the
combination
sayonara,
of factors you employ, and in
the
what ratio,
peace
you're
out.
still stuck with the same problem. Rainfall? Okay. Well,
Wow,
rainfall,
Tim
if
Hortons.
it's a lot of
Are you
rainfall,
surprised though? You can't be
or even
surprised.
snow
But
melting,
that's
that means
fucking
you've got a fairly warm climate,
bullshit.
right? So now you've got this ice mass that needs to be growing, and it needs to be
That's bullshit.
occupying the
It's
valley
capitalism. Canadians love that
to
shit too.
such such an effective extent that it can retain water at pressures greater than 900
Expanding their
times
aft.
atmospheric. Now,
Hmm.
is that even possible?
I don't know, man.
And to
Do you
that
think?
over
Do you
and
think
over
they can
and
tell
over again?
people like Tim Hortons people can
That's
tell the
where my
difference? I don't think so.
fundamental question comes in. Now, let's go back to the Scablands here.
And okay, so playing the devil's advocate here. What about
A&W's tasty, man. Tasty
solar
stuff. It's
cycles?
expensive though.
You've got this
Pretty expensive, but it's tasty.
22-year cycle of the sun. So you have 11 years to the cooling, and then 11 years back to the active cycle, back down. So you have that
Wow.
periodicity. So in the less active solar cycle, maybe you have the ice regrowing, right, solidifying in the valley. And then as the sun moves to its more active period, then you have like a lot more rainfall, you're filling the basin, the ice breaches in the active
Okay,
part of
but
the
in this case, bear in mind, the ice, you have to ask at what point would the ice breach? That's
Still
why I want to circle back and come back to actually looking at modern examples of outburst floods, glacially dammed floods. And you know what you're going to see over and over and over and over and over and over again when you look at dozens of examples of glacially dammed floods, outburst floods. What you see is
Shit
that the
before
water
they rebranded
typically
it's so good now.
will rise
Yeah.
to between 100 and 300 feet depth behind
tasty,
the
it's
ice,
really
and the
tasty,
ice
man.
completely cannot retain
As you
it.
know. Brutal.
And the ice, the water gets to that pressure level,
There's one right around
begins to quickly
right around your
erode.
work, man. I used to go there a lot.
either directly through the ice, because the ice itself is it's a porous medium.
What?
You know,
Come on.
there's a whole network of interstitial cavities all weaving through the ice mass. There are fissures and fractions and moulins that sometimes can be cracks that go from the surface of the ice sheet to the bottom. During spring melt, when the surface of
the
the
run.
ice melts,
This
the
is
water
it.
runs into a
Telling you.
moulin, into a fracture.
You were
they've
here.
Done, they've used dye
made it
tests
possible.
where you put dye into that water that's flowing into these cracks in the glacier
Oh,
surface.
whatever. It's fine.
2 weeks later, 30 miles to the south, that
Fuck,
colored
come on.
water is
I just
discharged
pooped it.
from
I
the
pooped my
snout of
pants.
the ice sheet.
I pooped it everywhere.
It's moving all the way through the
Poop
ice sheet
was
and
on
gets
the
to the
walls.
base of the ice sheet. And
Oh,
it'll
I
do
can't
that
believe I
sometimes
pooped
in a
that
matter of days,
poorly, man.
sometimes in a matter of weeks. And then when you get the water ponding behind the ice dam, like I said, typically 100 to 300 feet, and it gives
Fine.
way. The water will start percolating through oftentimes what happens is percolates between the interface between the ice and the channel, right? I mean, it'll when the water gets strong enough, like look at the Teton Dam failure.
Go.
It was actually able to erode itself right through the bedrock. And what was the depth there? A couple hundred feet? So
Oh my God,
talking
come
about
on.
90 times, 40 or 90 times, you're backing that water up, whatever, 1,500, 2,000 feet deep behind the ice dam? I don't know. That sounds
This
a
is
little
like
shaky
the
to me.
fastest run I think I've ever had.
But why do they, why do they stand by this?
Well, that's why. That's the question I've been
This
asking
is like
for
the
30
fast and
years.
best run I've ever had.
It has been
Like
challenged
of like
a
all
few
time.
places.
Do I have a grenade?
Warren
Oh
C.
my
Hunt,
God.
the late Warren C. Hunt,
Oh
was
my
the one
God.
geologist, and on the eve of our very first traverse in '98, where we did
This
the,
run is like
which
140
might have
like
been
one pace.
well, whatever year. I got him in several conversations on the phone.
Been doing any
He was
thumb
an
push-ups
engineering
lately?
geologist, and
No.
I'm gonna pull
can't
up
do
some
that.
quotes that he wrote
Not yet, at
back
least.
in, some obscure journals back in the 70s, I think 77. Okay. Basically, what Warren C. Hunt was, he was an engineering
Yes.
geologist. So he would go in. He was a consulting geologist that would be consulted, go in and look at the
It's over. It's over.
bedrock suitability for building an ice dam.
Fuck.
Right? That was his areas of expertise.
What's
So
the
he looked at
pace?
the whole idea of an
That was
ice dam.
so
He called
fast.
it-
That was
he said
so
it's-
fast. 59
he
death
said
in the
there's no
room
way,
is so
it's not
fast, man.
possible. And he cited an example of an ice dam flood that was being explained in Canada that required a water depth of about 1,000 feet behind the ice dam. And so he basically started with that and said, and proved, demonstrated the infeasibility of that.
I gotta save that run.
And then he said, if that is impossible, doubling the water depth is even more impossible. But his critique of the basic model was completely ignored, as if it was never even expressed. Right? Then come I guess it was, when we did our first traverse to British Columbia.
Fuck me, that was
A
fast.
paper came out by John Shaw and Jerome Lessman, our good friend Jerome Lessman, who's going to be back on the show again, entitled Back to Brett's. Because let's talk now about what Brett's initial idea was. When we go back here to this map, and I think we're still seeing this, right?
Did you see how far it's
Okay.
strafed?
So we talked about the
Man,
chain
that
of
was
Palouse,
fast.
how it's coming down this way, back floods up the Snake, ultimately flows down the Snake, and converges.
I think I
back
really
with
should start going wide. I got
Columbia
shot too
right
many
in here
times in that big room, or in the
Pasco
dark room.
Basin area, right here.
I might go back to going
Then
wide
we come over here to the
for the
west,
upload.
and we see the
Yo, don't let this become your
Same
depot.
thing, about 2,400
No, I
feet
love
above
this
sea
level, man. I love
right-
it.
roughly right in
I
here,
love
we have
everything
this
about this level.
directional change. You see these channels here are flowing back down as you go north into the Columbia.
Let thumb push become my depot.
Here, you have a directional change, so the water is now flowing south.
Well, it's like
So this is
those
a
levels are
active
so
divide, a
you have
watershed
to
divide, right?
you have
So
to like hope for
any water
so much to happen
pools
well.
here,
We all
has
have
to
a
get up to
depot. Time to-
2,400 feet above sea level. It will then
Dude, I love this
spill
level, though. I
over
love
the
it.
divide. Once it does that, you can actually begin eroding divide and cut channels down there to make 100, 200, 300 feet
All right, here we
deep,
go. Let's dig in. Let's dig
right?
in.
So now what was spilling over the sheet becomes channelized and it focuses along those channels. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. But right here is where that directional change takes place. So we can actually take topographic maps or even Google Earth. If I switched over to Google Earth, I can show you. We could actually trace the 2,400 feet above sea level divide right in here. What I'm suggesting, and it clearly, this is the Spokane River. The Spokane River, this whole valley, was clearly, the evidence is conclusive that it did fill up with water up to that level, up to the sill, right? It filled up with water, and then that water spilling over, right, is related to the carving of these two Scablands. Well, the assumption, though, is in the model of, outburst floods from Glacial Lake Missoula is this. Water's coming out of the Clark Fork. The ice dam has been swept away here. Now, never mind that Lake Ponderay, this trough right in here is 1,100 feet deep, which raises interesting questions in itself. Because in the redamming of the river that supposedly took place, at what point did this 1,100 foot deep trough
That
come
seems
in?
like a more. I'm getting that down more.
That's kind of the question.
I
So,
totally let go of C up though.
If it was there, obviously it
Might
would
be
have to be
case, this
filled
might
with
be
ice
case.
first before you could even. Let's say it was only 500 feet deep. That means still you got 500 feet of ice.
I'm gonna try going
And
wide
that
here.
has to be added to the half mile of ice in order to
No, I'm
get
not,
the
I lied.
surface of that ice up above the
See, like
4,200 foot.
that switch is
above sea
crazy.
level.
Way too slow.
See what I'm saying?
Always gonna get shot
Okay.
there.
Now, what if the lake was already there?
Actually, on my
the ice
PBs I
came
didn't get
out
shot there,
and
but
floated over the lake, which is possible, right? Because you can have ice coming out, an ice load comes out that moves out onto the typically, of course, what happens, whether it's into a fjord or a lake, is at some point the ice will break off.
Oh my God,
and
let's go.
form icebergs, right? And everybody's seen the video clips of big pieces of ice falling off the front edge of an ice sheet, falling into the water, and the big splash coming up and all of that, right? Well, if the lake was there, then you would think that that would be happening, wouldn't you?
fuck
But
me, man.
then, how do you form an ice dam? So the lake can't be there, basically. The lake can't be there, or the ice has to come and push the lake out of the way. But then it has to fill 1,000-foot trough, so that means that the ice has to actually be 3,500 feet thick. You see? So my question is in all the modeling and stuff that I've seen, nobody's ever really addressed
Oh my God, this is the
the
run.
lake. And
I know I said that last like 5 runs, but I'm
Right.
telling you.
So,
Okay, this is not the run.
Now, you come down here, the water
Psych.
comes down here,
I psyched you out.
and if we're going to talk about the Telford over here, and the conventional model is this. Here's the pathway. So let's say, Russ, you are in a rubber raft, and you're being swept along. You're on the surface of the flood. You're being swept along, and the ice dam breaks. All this water flows out here. Somehow you have to get it from here now over to here, right? Well,
I
how
left
are
go
you
of
gonna
C
get
up.
it?
I did it.
Well, you got to go.
I don't know
along
why
the
I did it, but I
Spokane
did
River
it.
Valley, right? So the assumption is that the water to create Telford has to come this way, and instead of diverting south over the Katy Palouse, which there's only two out, it's either there or it's not there.
Yeah, somehow I have to avoid going south here.
Yes, it has to get from there over to here and then divert south.
Which would be a lot of work in a raft. It'd be a lot of paddling. to keep
A lot of paddling, a lot of back paddling and stuff too, yeah. So the question is, why did the water go over here instead of just
How's
diverting
B-Rose doing?
south
Is he
where
going
it
for?
would've
Is he
already
still
gone?
going for 53?
Or if it didn't go here, wouldn't you think?
Yo,
that
thanks
this
for being
would be
here,
the
Dick
first
and Angel.
place?
You guys rule. You guys are the
Now let's
best.
assume this. Let's assume that the ice comes down and is filling the Spokane River Valley. Well, okay, so now you've got water coming down here. It would be diverted to the south. Okay.
Oh
so
my
now
God,
it
B-Rose,
gets
that was such a good shot. This might
but
be it.
to get the water over here to the Telford, the ice
Oh my
has
God.
to be gone, right? So
Is this the run? Oh my God, Twitch, don't give me an ad right now. Are you serious, ad?
Right?
Look, I
Well,
tried
if
to
you
watch
cut it
B-Rolls
first,
and
the
I'm
channel's
like,
already there.
look at this stupid ad, man. Jesus,
Why? Yeah. Why is it
so
not
lame.
just going to keep?
This is
unless
so
it-
lame.
Unless the water overwhelms the
fuck
Katy
off,
Palouse
Twitch.
and keeps going west, which doesn't seem possible.
Fucking
So
bullshit.
Somehow.
if the
Did he
ice
get
is
it?
down there, where are the drumlins?
Oh my God, he jumped off the
Oh,
dam.
yeah, because again, the
Is this it?
drumlins. Yeah. Well, yeah, and we'll come back to that actually, because that's an important clue.
Please
I
be
think.
it. 55?
On the other
Holy
hand, now
fuck.
let's go
It's
back.
fucked, man. That's what I mean. Like,
to
it's
that
so.
2001 paper back to
Dude,
Gretz.
that level is
Because what
so
was
messed.
Gretz's initial impression? Not that the Telford came
Damn,
from
Asian
here,
is so messed up, man.
but that it came from here.
Oh, okay.
Like,
look
I
at
thought
that.
that was
I can
53.
go with that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
55.
Here you have a major valley that would have been filled with a thick bed of ice. And if you have meltwater, just look, we know that there was ice in here. It's left its calling cards all up in it. It would have been thick ice, thousands of feet thick, right? It's gone, right? It's not there anymore. It had to have melted. Well, it didn't melt and then evaporate. It didn't melt and flow back to the north. It flowed to the south. Okay, now we come further to the west.
No, what? Come
Now,
on,
according to the
man.
conventional model, we have to get the water from Clark Fork Valley down through the Rathgrum Prairie, through the Spokane Valley, following over here. We have to bypass not only the Cheney Palouse, but the Telford. Then we have to get over here and start cutting the Grand Coulee. And interestingly, right here, the Great Notch, right here, is about this area. From this over here is about.
I'm trying to strafe a little more.
That's a good mystery to leave for next time. How did the water get all the way over there?
How did the water get all the way over there? But yeah, so this is where we're going to pick it up. Absolutely, because we're looking at this whole phenomenon.
Yeah, we're running long here and it's late, and we still want to talk about our little news we've got to pass on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Brad and I have been working, well, all of us, the whole team, but Brad and I have been working on getting everything up on HowTube, which is the video and commerce platform that we've been working with. We've been kind of partnered up with for Kosmographia, and Randall Carlson's material in general is a flagship of their entire new site. It's a beautiful site. It's very well put together. Brad and I have been working with them on getting all of our material up on the site there.
Right, all 60 episodes are now on the Randall Carlson HowTube channel. That's a major accomplishment. So they can be watched there. They can be listened to there. There are a bunch of options coming up, but I think
Aquela Cosia.
going to review some of that. Let's do it.
Now, the plan is to handpick a special group of about 100 flagship content creators, over the next few months, maybe up to a year. It's going to be by invitation only. Everybody that comes on board is going to be limited for the quality of their content that they're creating. And initially, some of the folks that now are coming on board are doing some great things. Mark with After School is going to be joining the family, the HowTube family. And
Ben Davidson.
Ben Davidson, yeah, and Two Seals and a Walrus, which are doing incredible work with consciousness changing plants and things. Maybe even get Brian Rescue, who's interested, the author of The Immortality Key. This is only the first wave of the official HowTube. As Mike has said, yeah.
Those are the pro accounts, but the free accounts are now open. You can get
Brutal,
on
man.
HowTube and sign up.
Damn.
You can become a member.
Oh man,
videos.
I got
So
absolutely destroyed
Randall
there.
Collection is the
I had no
first one
health,
there
though.
is the flagship. So you can sign up, create an account, put in your email address, and it's pretty simple.
It's pretty fast paced though.
There's
I
all
didn't
kinds
upload
of
though.
features, and we'll be talking about those more as we move forward. But yeah, you can get there now and start an account and upload your own videos if you want to play with it. But the pro commercial accounts are going to be.
I was
the
like
ones
right in
that
the
are,
fucking face, man.
offering the products and using the e-commerce that's so unique and special to HowTube.
I'll just tell you, for you video listeners out there, you can push play on a video and turn your phone screen off.
Yeah,
It's playing.
unlike YouTube.
Unlike YouTube.
Yeah, and I think you get a free account gets 25 gigabytes of storage. So, that's not a whole lot for videos, but it's enough for you to put some content up.
Damn,
there.
he's
And also
alive.
they do, even with free accounts, they allow password protected videos, which is really useful. So if you are a content creator and you're trying to give Patreon access to stuff, HowTube's a good platform to put up password protected content for your Patreon.
4 terabytes of video hosting. They do, credit card processing through Stripe. What else? They've got it's part of what makes them unique.
Thanks for
is
being
the,
here. I appreciate it.
Custom e-commerce software that they've employed.
Yeah.
The shipping, we use GoShippo.com. Yeah, so the idea, like, food
Yeah, they've
products.
they've integrated a whole bunch of very interesting pieces of commerce software into the website. It's very seamlessly put together.
That always happens. I always go, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And then I always lose a viewer.
Yeah, you can embed them.
Yeah, it's very clean, very easy to use. Just excited about getting started here.
Maybe I would always lose a viewer, whatever I say.
Areas of content we're going to be continuing.
But it's okay.
All the stuff we're doing in the background here that are about to be
You're the realist, anyways. 420, baby. Come on.
how to.
It's a sign. Wow.
It's a 92-10 split, so they only pay 10% at the top. They just streamline the whole ability to conduct commerce. Yeah. To the beginning. So yeah, we're excited.
1.5 mil. That's awesome, buddy.
It's just launched within the last couple of days, and like I said to Mike, the CEO, the other day, this is like a slimy little infant that's out there now, and
What?
we got to raise this baby up to a strong.
That's not a
thriving
guarantee.
adult over the next year or two. And if you're a content
Oh my
creator,
God, are you serious?
the potential to get content through us. You can get it through us, and we'll put you in, or you can go through the.
Wow, that was unexpected.
Learn more. And like Mike says, if you're, let's see, yes, the group of
Wow.
content creators will be chosen for their ability.
Just David and Josh's channels alone, I have 300,000.
consistent basis.
That's crazy, man.
They will be provided with complete access to all how-to features and receive our platinum level support services free for a year. And then third, a diverse group of 12 content creators will be chosen.
No. No. Gosh darn it.
Prime examples of how the how-to platform works in all its glory. We are calling these how-to's top 12 flagship features. And Randall Carlson is the first to stop. So this team right here, we're the first. So hopefully,
I'm getting pretty consistent at this level, though.
part of a whole growing worldwide.
Like, surprisingly, like, I'm getting surprisingly consistent as I fail right there. But still, you know what I mean? Like,
Cutting-edge things that
I'm telling you, like, I definitely have one more mainframe TV in me, for sure.
Excellent. All that. Well said.
Yes, sir.
We want to do a share screen or anything?
What? Come on.
We can do something different or go into more detail here.
Of the how-to homepage.
Howto.com homepage and then the Randall Carlson channel.
Yeah. Serpent, is that something
Pull.
nice to pull up?
Yeah, I'll pull that up. So this is the main how-to page. I'm not logged in. But yeah, so you can see that Kosmographia is a flagship.
How
Uh,
to.
Randall's lovely face is right there in front. And if you go to Randall's channel, we have all the content up here now. So if you sign up,
Like,
you'll be able
dude,
to come in, you'll
friggin'
be able to comment
Jackstar
and,
spent
follow
like
the
5
channel,
months
get
on this, man.
notifications,
And
there's
Jackstar has like
there's a
Archive
email
16 and
system
shit.
within the how-to site too, so
You know what I mean? Like,
other people and content creators use
not on this level, but on
Yeah,
Damn
all
53.
those over
Like,
here, plus other content.
he's got Archive 16, and he spent 5 months on Damn 53. Like, there's no way I'm gonna do that. There's like,
Yeah,
there's
Brad,
no
Brad,
way.
I'm working hard on this.
The first like 54 dupe I get,
Of course, we've all been working hard on making all these shows.
because I would think it'd be
Wow, that's
53. Like, I'm not. I would like. I would not go. I would not play again.
That's right. Yeah, and also all these we're using the how-to platform to embed the video podcast now on randallcarlson.com as well, because how-to does well. And of course, the website integrates with how-to very well, so we're using the how-to platform to embed videos on randallcarlson.com. Instead of
Go ahead and click on one of those. Show them where it goes. The video will have its own page.
Yep.
It's
This
pace.
is episode 60. Yeah, that's its own page. There's
It's
the
fine.
notes.
It's fine. Whatever. Let's go with it. It's not fine at all, but whatever. Whatever.
And we'll be able to add more stuff. We've been working hard to get all this material up here, but there will be more things that we can put in here.
Try another one.
Yeah, here we
See
go.
if the products are in there. There we go. So you can
There's-
also, it makes it super simple for you to get some of our gear.
Oh, here's the hat that I'm wearing.
Kosmographia Cosmo Cap.
T-shirts.
The Cosmo cap, I like it.
Yeah, Cosmo Cap. But yeah, it's a really good
So
site.
yeah, the way the people see the polyhedra, the atomic polyhedra that we're creating.
Yeah.
They're going to be putting more stuff out of that. And also mention that we're just now launching, now that we've gotten to this stage, we can move into the next stage. And one of the things we're doing is the initial work on developing the state-of-the-art sacred geometry course, which I attempted to do a number of years ago, but for a number of reasons it didn't quite work out. But yeah, look at this. These are some of the models that we're creating as
Beautiful.
teaching.
Look at that. Yeah. They're gorgeous. Gorgeous. I gotta get a set of these.
And we're live. Gentlemen, here we go again. What's happening?
Back in the room.
A pleasure to see you guys. As always, this is one of my favorite podcasts that we ever do. And this is very timely because, first of all, the big New York Times article about the possibility of a comet hitting Los Angeles, the preparations for what they would do if a comet hit Los Angeles, and the comet known as Donald Trump that's hit.
I think
the
we saw
United
this one
States.
last time, didn't we?
He's even got the hair.
Yeah, I think we did.
Just the whole
We
thing
did.
is-
We did.
I mean, if the end of the world was coming, boy, it's all on the wall.
We did.
You know, the- Here we go. And boom, we're live. Graham, great to see you again.
Nice to be back
Always.
with you, Jeff.
And we were just talking about your new book, America Before, that there's two versions of it. There's one version, and then there's a newer version that's a Barnes & Noble version that's specific to Barnes & Noble that has an extra whole chapter in it.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they can get that at Barnes & Noble. I'm just trying to keep bookstores alive, man. They're on their way out.
I think it's really important, and that's one of the reasons that I did this because I had finished the book, and then Barnes & Noble came to me through my publishers and said they would like to do a special edition of the book, but in order to do that, I needed to write them some extra material, and I had a lot of material that I hadn't put in the book, and I thought, well, this is an opportunity to put that out there.
Beautiful. So if people want that, it's a little bit different, and there's a small gold square.
Okay, so first of all, my website, grahamhancock.com, has a page about America Before, and the link to the Barnes & Noble edition is there, as well as the link to the standard edition, which is on Amazon and iTunes and all kinds of other places. So grahamhancock.com and the America Before page, the link to the Barnes & Noble edition is right there.
All right, there it is. So, how is this? Well, before we even get into the book, what is it?
Go to Talks and Events.
Okay, we're on the Graham Hancock website.
No, go to books. Go to books. Go to America Before.
Bam.
Bam.
There it is.
Go to United States, you can see Amazon, Barnes, and there's Barnes and Noble.
Special edition.
Special edition. Click on that.
There you go. And then the ebook as well.
The ebook is available. The
audio
audiobook, which I read myself, is available there. And then if you scroll down, oops, that shouldn't be there.
It's damn pop-ups.
Damn
Sons of
pop-ups.
bitches. I am so happy you read it yourself. I get angry when someone else reads someone who I'm like, come on, he can talk.
Yeah, I enjoy reading my books myself, and what I've learned from feedback I get from audiences at presentations is people like me doing that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
100%. It's just weird when someone else is talking in your voice. Like, hey man, I know you're not.
You know that I write fiction as well as non-fiction.
Yeah.
And the one thing I can't read is my fiction.
Really?
Well, yeah, because fiction requires accents. You really need an actor to read a fiction book who can get into the different characters. But for a non-fiction book like America Before, it's very straightforward for me just to read it myself.
I agree. I'm a tremendous Stephen King fan, but when I read Stephen King's books where he reads them or listen to them when he reads them, they're terrible. He's awful at it.
I don't think a novelist should read their own novels. I think that's a job for an actor. Oddly enough, I've just been reading Stephen King's Dark Tower series. Very near the end of the 7th volume.
Yeah, I'm just a giant fan of his, but
Me
man,
too.
when he reads it like he's just reading.
Yeah.
It's like, oof, this is rough. It's hard to get behind. Anyway, America Before.
So
give us
on the website, there's details about the book. There's a page where there are links to the book. And also the other thing I would like to take this opportunity to mention is I'm in America and Canada for the next 7 weeks. And I'm going to be doing something like 25 presentations in something like 20 American cities and then 3 Canadian cities in Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto. And that's all on the talks and events page of my website. So if anybody wants to come along and meet this old man in person, I will be doing those events.
And are you doing these at theaters, and do you allow Q&As? Like how does this work?
Absolutely, I allow Q&As. I encourage that. I feel as an author that, frankly speaking, I'm nothing without my audience. I owe my audience, my readers, big time. And what I try to do at events is to give back as much as I can. So if people want to take pictures with me, I am absolutely up for that. I don't understand why anybody would want to do that, but it's fun. It's kind of fun. And when people want to come to the desk where I'm signing and ask me personal questions, I'm ready to do that. Sometimes on the British book tour, which I just finished, I was behind in the event space for 4 hours after the event finished.
Wow.
Signing and taking pictures. But it's a joy. It's a really opportunity for me to interact with the people who actually make my work matter. So.
That's fantastic. Beautiful. So what inspired this? I know there's always been, well, you, first of all, we should just say, for people who don't know, you have been at the front of the line for decades, talking about these lost civilizations. And from reading your work, I mean, I think I first read your work in the 90s. You exposed me to a lot of these, what were at the time controversial ideas that have now been substantiated by actual evidence, particularly Göbekli Tepe and I mean the all the water erosion stuff on the Sphinx, and I've since had Dr. Robert Schock on the podcast to talk about that as well. But all this stuff was at one point very controversial, and now far less.
Yes.
I mean, whatever traditional academics and traditional historians that are trying to, I guess it's archaeologists, that were trying to resist, they've let go a lot of that. They've had to with things like Göbekli Tepe.
They've had to because the evidence has overwhelmed them. And Göbekli Tepe is an excellent example. Prior to the discovery and excavation of Göbekli Tepe, which is a site in Anatolia in Turkey, it was the view, very firm view of archaeologists, that there had been no megalithic architecture anywhere on Earth. And when I say megalithic, I mean literally big stones, stone circles, huge constructions, nothing like that before at the very, very earliest 6,000 years ago. And they would point to sites in, for example, Malta, a site called Gigantia, which is about 5,800 years old. That's the oldest megalithic architecture in the world. And they could understand how that was because these were agricultural societies, they generated surpluses, you could free up people who could become specialists in architecture, in astronomy, in geometry, and they could apply their skills to the construction of these sites. But what they never considered possible was that a society that was hunter-gatherers would have created a gigantic megalithic site. And then suddenly, Göbekli Tepe is discovered, it dates to 11,600 years ago. It's more than 5,000 years older than the supposedly oldest megalithic architecture in the world. And it is in a center where there had been no previous evidence of agriculture, but the moment Göbekli Tepe appears, agriculture appears as well. And this is just something that's really hard for archaeology to explain. They've suddenly got 5,000 years of missing history that they've just never taken into account. And what I see them doing is largely avoiding the problem rather than getting to grips with it directly. And in fact, there have been a great number of changes in the last 20 years, which have worked generally in favor of the arguments that I've proposed.
Well, I'm so happy for you because I know that for a long time you were out there on your own with a lot of these theories.
Very, very much so, and also subjected to the most blistering and deeply unpleasant criticism from the archaeological fraternity and from their friends in the media, like how dare this journalist propose that history might be different, or that we might have a forgotten chapter in the human story. It was regarded almost as offensive.
I might try play a different level.
And archaeologists felt it was their responsibility.
I'm gonna stand up, walk around, take a little break, and then I'm gonna contemplate life, and then
the whole way my work was greeted.
I'm playing what, 2 hours? It's really warm though. Like I'm so in the zone. Yo, Eric, are you serious? It's through July, yo, Eric, what?
It made sense to me in 1995.
Did you subscribe just when I said
there was no compelling evidence
I was gonna change levels?
All the evidence seemed to point at that time and a massive global
Yo, Eric, man, thanks, man.
Onwards, you know,
I think this is too loud.
A decade after I wrote Fingerprints of the Gods, we'll get a group of more than 60 major
Twitch
scientists who are seriously proposing that the Earth was made by multiple fragments of a giant comet 12,800 years ago.
Yeah, I think Twitch.
Extinctions of megafaunas. They are not saying that it also wiped out a lost advanced civilization of previous.
Is being weird with the number of viewers. I think it's the number of viewers that are chatting. I think the lurkers, it doesn't count the lurkers. So I think there's probably more people watching than the number of, like, one. I could be wrong, but no worries. If you want to lurk away. I appreciate it. Yo, thanks so much, Eric, dude.
Well, now we know there was, and there are various explanations for it, so that's moved things along. And the other thing that's changed a lot is the attitude of the man in the street to authority. That has changed. Back in the 90s, authority figures were the gatekeepers. They control everything. Look at the authority figure in a discipline.
I had a really good run where I killed the box guard from far away and I strafed the entire room. I don't know if you saw that run, but it was pretty good. 420, baby. It's a sign. It's a sign.
Lied to by authority figures in all fields for so long. The bullshit has been so enormous that people are finally waking up. We can't trust what authority figures say.
And I think we can thank the internet for that.
We can thank the internet.
I'm sure you've seen the more recent evidence of a crater that they just discovered, like fairly recent.
Greenland.
Yeah, it's enormous.
It's an enormous crater. It's 18 miles wide. It had not been discovered before.
I didn't upload the thing. I didn't upload the disc. I might go wide around those guys. It might be more consistent. That was a pretty fast run.
Sometimes 2 miles deep. Europe the same, Northern Europe, but Greenland kept its ice, whereas the other parts of the world lost their ice at the ice age. And what's interesting about Greenland is there's already evidence of comet impact in Greenland, which goes back to papers published in the Proceedings of the National Academy.
Yo, thanks a lot, Eric, man.
2013, that they found what are called impact proxies in Greenland. In other words, nanodimes, carbon spheres, evidence of a lot of platinum and iron was found in a layer in the ice dated to 12,800 years ago. But the next development, and you're absolutely right, this was a few months ago, was the discovery of this humongous crater in Greenland and evidence that it was caused by iron impact of some kind. Now, dating of it, I would be irresponsible to say that that crater definitely dates to 12,800 years ago, because the work has not been done to prove that yet. But what I can say, and what the specialists who have explored it is that it's recent. They can say for sure that it happened during the last ice age. Under the crater, is nothing but massively disturbed and destroyed and completely wrecked ice from the ice age, from the Pleistocene. Above it is smooth, perfect ice from our report, which is called the Holocene, which began about 11,600 years ago. So all the evidence suggests that this crater dates to that period between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago. But to absolutely confirm that, more work needs to be done. But it's part of a growing pattern. The Younger Dryas impact scientists, they call themselves, they call this the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. And it's because there was a period in the Earth's geological history that geologists call the Younger Dryas, which lasted for 1,200 years, from 12,800 to 11,600 years ago. It's a very mysterious period. You see all the megafauna dying off. Suddenly,
Yo, mental health tag.
Huge collapse in
Well, for sure. I mean,
it's a cataclysmic epoch.
like some people are into being negative, and that's their thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't know. I'm a big softie. I'm a big cream puff. I mean, I can't lie about it. I can't pretend to be all tough and not giving a shit. I'm just a. Some people. No, but I mean, it's like, it's true. Like, it's. I hope that people can come here and even just talking about it. You know what I mean? Like, for example, if you're like suicidal, just being alive, making it through the day, playing video games, being competitive, talking your shit, you know, just being alive, that's success, you know what I mean? Like, it's okay to play video games. It's good to play video games. It's good to be alive and talk shit and... And yeah, I definitely want people to come watch my stream. How about Eric the Legend? Is he streaming right now? He just subscribed. Yeah, exactly, man. Is he streaming? Did he do the subscribe while stream? What a legend, man.
The worldwide tradition of a global flood stops being just a myth and starts being a memory.
Dude, I got some serious competition. I'm against Eric B-Rose. He is streaming and he subscribed. What a guy, man. What a dude. What a man.
Such a kind, generous, spirited person. It's a joy to work with him. Every minute spent with him is an education. I had the privilege.
Am I dropping frames? It looks like I'm dropping frames.
Seeing things through his eyes
It really looks like I'm dropping frames.
You could look at these giant boulders called glacial erratics, and they just look odd sitting there in the landscape. But when you really consider how they got there, that they got there in icebergs the size of oil.
I gotta see how this looks.
That were carried on floods that were at least 500 up to 1,000 feet deep, that were tearing through channeled Scablands.
I just want to see how this looks.
Then the icebergs would ground on valley sides. The floodwaters would recede the icebergs with giant icebergs. As they melted away, they revealed the rocks that had changed.
Looking pretty good. Looking like perfect.
Everything that was underneath that,
Alright.
12,800 years ago, is gone.
Only lie because I don't want to miss Perfect Dark 2021. Exactly, man. Exactly.
If people that are interested in this, please watch the YouTube videos of it, because Randall provides all sorts of video and photographic evidence where you can take a look at the landscape and you get a perspective of how immense this destruction was.
It's really important to see that, because it's easy enough to...
Dude, I'm like heating up, man. I'm getting like I'm really warmed up now. I'm like, I'm not in the zone, but I'm warm, like I'm heating up. I'm not even just like, wow, I just say that. I'm using my good controller to my good stick.
And the evidence continues to build. I have, in America before, I've not gone over old ground that I went over in Magicians of the Gods, and covered in various interviews and podcasts, in which is really a good idea that people take a look at. But what I have done is added
Get an AC, yeah.
since 2015, which further supports the Younger Dryas notion of multiple fragments of a giant created absolutely.
So what was the motivation behind creating this book?
My window's right here.
It's a curious mixture of things. I have been exploring the possibility of a lost civilization for more than 25 years. That was the essence of my book, Videocast.
Alright, let's drink some water.
Far that there has been a huge forgotten episode in human history. I continued to follow that in a series of other books, and by the time I got to 2002, when I published a book called Underworld, that followed 7 years of scuba diving on continental shelves, looking for structures that were submerged by rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age, I really felt I'd done it. I felt I'd walked the walk, put out to the public a massive body of information, and I thought my role in this is over, and I can breathe a sigh of relief because it's hot in this particular kitchen, and I can go do something else. And I ended up writing a book about psychedelics. I ended up writing Supernatural, Meeting the Creation Teachings of Mankind, about the role of psychedelics in the origins of the human story. But then, new information started to come out that touched on the lost civilization idea, and I couldn't just stand by and ignore that information. That's why I published Magicians and Gods in 2015. And then, as I was researching that book, I became aware of something I hadn't realized before, that there's a mass of new information from the Americas, specifically from the Americas, which completely rewrites the story of human history, that the Americas
Yo, this is the run.
have been
This is it.
misrepresented.
I'm not even memeing. This is the run.
By archaeology.
This is for Dick,
Enormous
Angel,
for saying that.
and
A
Eric,
way of forgetting
for
their
subscribing while streaming.
saying, oh, well, we do
What a
know
lad.
that
It's
wasn't
over.
the case. But
The
the
dream
fact
is
of the
dead.
matter remains that for the best part of 50 years, from the 1960s through until about 2000,
It just goes like from so well to just complete disaster in like one bullet.
which was Clovis first. That they invented a name for a culture. They called it the Clovis culture. We don't know what they called themselves.
This is actually really fast.
They
This is
first
so
appeared
fast if I survive this run.
13,400 years ago, and they vanished from the archaeological record.
There's no way I'm gonna survive though. There's like absolutely no way.
It was maintained adamantly that these were the first Americans, that no human being touched the soil of the Americas until 13,400 years ago. Just animals, but no human beings present at all. And any archaeologist who attempted to dispute that dogma, and I use the word deliberately, there should be no room for dogma in science, but any archaeologist who challenged that would face severe problems with his or her career. They would be mocked and humiliated at conferences, like an archaeologist called Jacques Saint-Mars from Canada, in the Yukon. Humiliated at conferences, insulted, accused of making stuff up. Their research funding would be withdrawn. Basically, to challenge Clovis first was the end of your archaeological career. So naturally, very few archaeologists wanted to challenge Clovis first.
What was this gentleman in the Yukon? What was this?
He's called Jacques Saint-Mars. And interestingly, the Smithsonian, just in 2017, did a big kind of mea culpa, a big admission about this, that everybody got it wrong, that Jacques Saint-Mars had been ruined by the Clovis first lobby, but he'd been right all along. The site he excavated in the Yukon was re-excavated in 2017, and every single thing he said was correct, even though they had just sneered at him.
In what year was he?
He was excavating in the 1980s and the 1990s. He's still alive. He's still alive.
Is it better?
Well, I think he's vindicated, you know, and it's kind of nice to be vindicated. There's almost a place in folklore for the individual who is scorned and humiliated, you know, by others, but who turns out to be right, and he was right. But my point about this is that what it meant was, since it was the dogma that Clovis was first, that the oldest dates were 13,400 years ago, there seemed to be no logic to archaeologists in digging deeper. You know how it is with archaeology, that the upper levels are the youngest, and the deeper you go, the older it gets. That's why we say upper Paleolithic for the late Ice Age and lower Paleolithic for the late Stone Age and lower for the older Stone. And the feeling was, no need to dig below the Clovis layer, because we already know that there were no human beings there before that. And then a few archaeologists, I mentioned Jacques Saint-Mars, but another is Al Gougier from the University of South Carolina, who excavated a site called Topper in South Carolina. Now, Topper is an incredibly rich Clovis site. It's full of their tools, their points. They made these special flint points that were used as arrowheads and spears. great Clovis site. He finished excavating the Clovis site.
Man, what?
Then he did something that was supposed not to be done. He decided to dig deeper. And he carried on digging down, and there was a layer of about 1.5 meters of barren soil. And then beneath that, more human artifacts. And they finally date those back to more than 50,000 years ago. And then in 2017, published in Nature by Tom Demeray, who's the chief paleontologist at the San Diego Natural History Museum, and a bunch of other very high-level paleontologists, published in Nature magazine evidence for human presence in North America 130,000 years ago. Now, this has really put the cat amongst the pigeons. Now, if humans were present in North America 130,000 years ago, and archaeologists have been telling us for 50 years that they were only present from 13,000 years ago, that's 10 times as long that we've had humans in North America capable of doing stuff, and the archaeological dogma has prevented any search for what they were doing until very recently.
What was the evidence from 130,000 years ago?
Okay, so it's not the, let me be clear about this, because this is something that is often misrepresented in my views. It is not the evidence for an advanced civilization that we find 130,000 years ago.
I'm gonna get up and walk around a bit, I think.
Find is evidence for
I
human
might play a bit
presence.
more
What
after.
they were doing was very much Stone Age stuff. It's a mastodon. It's a mastodon skeleton that was excavated. It was actually found by accident during road construction near San Diego. And an archaeologist was attached to the road construction crew and immediately stopped construction, and they investigated it thoroughly. And what they found was so much dynamite in the early 1990s when they found it that they decided not to publish it. Because what they found was evidence that those mastodon bones had been cracked open by human beings using tools, and that the marrow had been extracted, that one tusk had been left standing upright in the ground, and another had been left beside it, that a femur of the animal.
Yo, Rose Ferrari, what's up, man?
And there was
Aztec double overbraid, man. Never even beat this one. Had to have a friend do it for me back then. Nice, man. Nice story, dude. Yeah, man. I've had 0 completions tonight. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, this is such a YOLO run. This is actually a really good run, man. This is like an abnormal run.
We already know that the dogmatic approach of archaeology has rather refused to look at anything older than 13,000 years ago. And what it does is it generates an engine of demand that we need to be looking at those missing 100,000 plus years. We need
Yo,
to
thanks, man.
Of course, the immediate reaction
I got
is not
146.
to go looking for stuff in the other 100,000 years.
Of the English Golden Eyes, it's 15th place. Of including Japanese, it's 46.
It can't be so, but that's precisely what they said to Jacques Cinq-Mars, who said that humans were in Bluefish Caves in the Yukon 25,000 years ago. And it's precisely what they said to Al Goodyear, who said humans had been at Topper 50,000 years ago, and they were both right. And I believe that Tom
The Japanese Golden Eye, the auto aim is.
published in Nature.
I think it's a little bit advantaged on PAL, but I don't know about that. I think you might get hit less or something.
The challenge fundamentally comes from
Yeah, like I have a video showing the auto aim of Japanese. Should I play it? Should I play the video?
to put it in perspective, it's about 60,000
I have an
years
anonymous player playing Aztec double O in Japanese, and you can see the auto aim on it. It's ridiculous. Let me show it. I'll show you the video. I'll show you.
Australia.
And this is just evidence of the first human beings.
Yes.
We have to point out how difficult it is to find evidence.
It's extremely difficult to find. You know, sometimes we imagine that archaeologists are working with masses of skeletal material. No, they're not. They're not. I mean, this is one of the ironies. The whole Clovis first dogma. You would
Dude,
think
awesome.
they
Looking
had
for see.
massive
Yo,
material
dude.
to work with. They did have
It's
the tools,
ridiculous, man.
But in terms of skeletal remains, just one. Just one.
It's like
single
ridiculous.
Skeletal remain.
Now, one of the things that Michael Shermer had sent me was this dispute that perhaps the bones had been cracked open by the excavation material.
Yeah,
By the excavation machines.
I saw Michael's
With this though, I mean, it's
email last night, and
it's kind of hard. Like, I mean, I'm sure if you practice it a lot, it's pretty easy.
You see that? You see that?
It's kind of hard. Like, I mean, I'm sure if you practice it a lot, it's pretty easy.
which is the site that Tom San Diego Natural History Museum excavated. And what's interesting,
I mean, I'm sure if you practice it a lot,
Let's
it's
change the speed of this. Speed. How do I slow this down?
Basically, this
how.
paper
Should be able to.
was in no way a replication of the original paper in Nature. As a matter of fact, the gentleman who wrote that paper never even looked at the archaeological remains that are in now in San Diego.
Practice it a lot. It's
What it is, what he based it on is reference and construction plans.
or this though. I mean, it's kind of hard. Like, I mean, I'm sure if you like practice it a lot, it's.
Look at that auto aim.
This though,
Like,
I mean,
it's so much better.
It's kind of hard. Like, I mean, I'm sure if you like practice it a lot.
Interesting. Look at it. Look at that. Look at this. It's garbage. It's pure. And it's not garbage. It's just a lot easier auto aim.
Or this though, I mean, it's kind of hard. Like, I mean, I'm sure if you like practice it a lot, it's.
Is completely different from the kind of fracture you get in a fossilized bone.
Now look at me. Now look at now look at this. Now look at
It
this.
just looks at road plans and says there was road work there. It must have been done by road work. And it's very sloppy, very weak, and it's certainly not the answer. We can expect ongoing debate, and that is healthy.
I'm gonna have to miss. I'm gonna miss. I'm gonna miss on
So
purpose.
this points to
Oh, he ran away.
the first evidence that we found.
But I'm gonna have to miss
Is there any effort underway to try to uncover
to show you.
more evidence that, from a similar time?
Well, I'm going to cite Tom Demeray, the chief paleontologist at the
See?
San Diego National
Like-
History Museum. That's what he would
Oh,
say.
okay.
He makes the point to me. I interviewed
That
him.
was too.
I spent a day with
Now I know what to blame all damn little fails on over the last 25 years.
quote from it.
Nah, man.
Before.
But what I'm saying is like even like look at this. I'm too locked in, man. I can't throw myself off to ruin it. But you'll see through time.
Looking at deposits older than 13,400 years, and even being willing to go back as far as 130,000 years.
Or this though, I mean, it's kind of hard. Like, I mean, I'm sure if you like practice it a lot, it's. Or this though, I mean, it's kind of hard. Like, I mean, I'm sure if you like practice it a lot, it's.
Is that we're going to find much more evidence.
This though, I mean, it's kind of hard. Like, I mean, I'm sure if you like practice it a lot, it's.
If we don't look, then we're never going to find. If we allow dogmen to stop us looking and saying, "Oh, it's impossible," that humans were in the Americas, so we won't bother to look. What a failure of science that is, and to spend all the time instead trying to get rid of the evidence that.
But it's so fascinating that just this fortuitous discovery during a construction site could change.
Or this though, I mean, it's kind of hard. Like, I mean, I'm sure if you like practice it a lot, it's.
This is a road cut that's being made. So those would be pretty deep down, 10, 15 feet down. The grader is going through and it varies from place to place depending on the soil stratification of the soil. But what the key point is that what you need to do is go deeper than 13,400 years ago, and you need to do so with dedication and vigor and with some kind of funding. And at the moment, archaeology doesn't see the point.
So yeah, I consider
the paper in Nature,
Japanese Aztec 00 different.
Was a low. If there were nothing else than that, I wouldn't place so much trust in it. But I've spent a lot of time during the research of this book with archaeologists who dig deeper. And what those archaeologists all confirm is that there have been examples for tens of thousands of years. And it's not surprising that can be pushed back to 130,000 years ago, because part of the argument about the peopling of the Americas has to do with the place that we now call
Caverns, extra bar. Yeah.
between Alaska and Siberia.
It's whack, man. It's so whack, dude. Dude, it's so whack.
Times a land bridge. They were exposed because of lowered sea levels. But migrants who cross that land bridge.
But it's whatever, right? It's like, it's the person who plays it, it's that's the point. Whether they feel happy. Like, if, like, it's like at the end, if you're like, are you proud of yourself? Like, maybe people are, and that's cool, and that's great. People can do that. But I wouldn't be proud of myself.
2 miles deep, covering the whole of North America and preventing access to the unglaciated parts of America. The thing is that
It just doesn't make any sense to me.
around 13,400 years ago, there had been a period of global warming. The ice sheets began to melt, and a corridor opened up between what's called the Cordilleran ice sheet and the Laurentide ice sheet, two major ice sheets in North America. And it's thought that migration came through that corridor. Well, the thing is that exactly the same thing happened.
I hear you. Thanks, buddy.
Years ago and 120,000 years ago, there was an episode of global warming, an ice-free corridor opened up.
Yeah, of course you do, because, like, you're right. We're right.
And it was at the latest.
Of course it makes sense, because it's factually correct.
Pay much more attention to that earlier period, and that's really why I've gone ahead.
Sorry, I'm losing my mind, man.
Trying to put before a broad general audience, hopefully in language that makes sense. And
Posted a question in the Elite Forums a while back because I had TNS.
that casts doubt on the story we've been told. Because my goodness, if archaeology is
Oh,
the story of
yeah.
the people of the Americas, if it's radically wrong, as it
Yeah.
used to be,
That's funny. What level? Was it Caverns? Was it Caverns double
it's
low?
not just the history of the Americas.
Caverns double low or
It's the
Control?
entire world. It has been an absolute article of faith amongst archaeologists that civilization began.
Or this one?
Old world. And indeed, I have a book in my library.
That's funny.
called
TNS.
History Begins at Sumer, and it's by Samuel Noah Kramer, a very renowned archaeologist.
My Perfect Dark game has a lot of times
But
over
the
20
argument
minutes.
is that this is where
Perfect Agent one.
civilization began in the culture that we call the Sumerians in Mesopotamia between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers.
Control, either Agent double,
About
nice.
6,000 years ago. And
Ask
this
Henry
civilization
check,
is
yeah.
entirely an invention of the old world and has nothing to do with the new world at all because the new world was populated so late. This has been
And the
argument.
drones.
This is the argument that now radically and suddenly begins to change, that the Americas, this enormous landmass, resource rich, bountiful in every way, south of Minnesota, south of the ice cap, vast land areas that are bountiful. Get into South America, Central America, South America, the Amazon, just huge areas of land that were very, very offered great potential for human occupation. Dogma has said there were no humans there. Now the first bits of evidence are coming out that says there were humans there. And if that's the case, then we must consider the possibility that the story of civilization...
Good big day tomorrow. Gonna hit the sack. Yo, thanks, dude. Yo, thanks, man. Appreciate that, buddy. Thanks, man. I might play for another 20 minutes or so.
Pieces of evidence in South America have come out recently about these
I gotta have like a pretty perfect run.
ways that they found
Right now, it's like I need
that
like
could not
perfection for this to go correctly.
humans creating
Like it's like,
humans creating
wow, that was really bad.
appears like
Thanks,
grids,
buddy. Thanks,
like
man.
city grid.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the support.
Amazon
Appreciate the
is
witness.
a colossal mystery.
Appreciate the commiseration.
It's one of the subjects that I explore in depth in my book before. First of all, to give some basic figures, the Amazon basin is
If you use Japanese for Link's Awakening DX, I'm not judging, man. I'm not judging. I know people speedrun the Zeldas with Japanese. I mean,
remains almost
it is what it is. But I'm not judging. It's not. It's different. It's not like GoldenEye. It's not like it helps you like do the hardest part of the game.
Is the size of the entire Indian
You know what I mean?
So it's like saying we've done world archaeology, but we've just ignored India. You know, we've done world archaeology, but we've just ignored the Amazon. It's the same argument. 5.5 million square kilometers. The view was, again, there was a dogma, there was a preconception. Human beings couldn't have flourished in the Amazon. It's not a resource-rich area. The soils are poor. It's a difficult area, challenging to get to, very far from the Bering Straits.
That was so
the view
bad.
was
That may have been the
humans
worst
had entered the
11
Amazon
bullets or 9 bullets of all time.
years ago. And then gradually, little by little, that view has begun to change. It's begun to change because of the tragic clearances of the Amazon. Because the Amazon rainforest is literally being cut down and turned into soybean farms and cattle ranches. And in that cutting down process has emerged things that shouldn't be there at all. for example, evidence that large cities flourished in the Amazon. Enormous cities, which were larger than there was a Spanish explorer who went down the Amazon River system which was the first
What? Come on.
across the entire length of South America, from west to east, along the Amazon. He reported seeing incredible cities, advanced arts and crafts, millions of people, a thriving culture. And 100 years later, when other Europeans got into the Amazon, they couldn't find these cities. So they said, "Oh, Francisco Orellana, that was his name, made it all up. It was just a fantasy." And then in the last decade, as the clearances in the Amazon proceeded, we've begun to see the traces of those cities. What happened was the Spaniards brought smallpox into the Amazon. Smallpox devastated the local population because there was no immunity to it. There was a massive die-off. The cities were deserted. Within 50 years, they were completely overgrown.
Wow, the double.
That's why they were not seen by the explorers who came in 100 years later. But now the jungle's being cleared, those cities are emerging. And we can say that a city like London, which had a population of roughly 50,000 in the 16th century, there were cities of that size all over the Amazon. Huge numbers. And a possible total population of the Amazon that exceeded 20 million people.
Wow, that was
yes,
slow.
20 million. This is the latest
That was way
evidence
too
from the
slow.
Amazon. And then you ask yourself, how did they do that? How did they feed 20 million people in the Amazon? Because it's a fact, rainforest soils are poor.
It's really laggy, Mike.
Soybean farms are really
It's really laggy. I'm gonna have to probably load service 1 or
It's
something.
largely unfertile, and you can't grow stuff on it for very long. So how did they feed all these people? The answer was they invented a soil, and that soil has a name. It's called terra preta. Archaeologists refer to it as Amazonian dark earths or Amazonian black earth. It's a man-made soil. It's thousands of years old. It's full of microbes that are not found in adjoining soil. It's based around biochar. And you can take a handful of 8,000-year-old terra preta and you can add it to barren soil, and that soil will instantly become fertile. It's highly sought after in the Amazon, and it explains how they fed these people. There was science in the Amazon.
How did they create this?
Well, this is something that's not understood. It's still not understood by soil experts to this day as to how that was done, but it's one of many intriguing pieces of evidence of much higher development in the Amazon than it has been given credit for, and of a kind of science in the Amazon.
James got an image of it up there. So this is it? Wow.
Exactly.
So was that done by burns? Did they use controlled burns?
They did. One way that it was achieved was to do wet burning of millions. They would be burned and smolder. They wouldn't burn fiercely; it just produces charcoal. They would burn and smolder, and that what is called biochar would result, and that's part of the fertility of the soil. But the mystery is the microbial content of the soil, which is completely different from the microbes.
Fucking hell, man.
Remains unexplained.
So, what are the theories? Composting? Some sort of advanced composting?
Yes, some sort of advanced composting. But again, what has not been explained is the microbial content of these soils. So there, first of all, is an issue of how two things: how large populations get fed in the Amazon, and evidence that there was a culture in the Amazon that was capable of manipulating the environment in such a way that it could support large populations with the invention of terra preta. Secondly, new evidence previously not recognized. The Amazon is basically a garden. The Amazon is a man-made rainforest.
Bullshit.
There are certain trees like Brazil nut trees or the ice cream bean tree, which are food crops, which are very, very valuable, and they dominate the tree regime in the Amazon. They're what referred to as hyperdominant species. In other words, people living in the Amazon over thousands of years selected certain trees, which they then cultivated and grew. So the whole thing is not simply a wild, pristine rainforest. It's a very ancient man-made environment, and emerging from that man-made environment, as well as evidence of large cities, large populations, and this mysterious dark earth.
All right, I'm gonna take a break. Use the washroom. I'll be back. Thank you very much.
And again, I go into this at length in America before because I love this mystery. We have in the UK structures that are called henges. I live in the city of Bath, about 30 miles away. There's a beautiful site called Avon, and another more famous site called Stonehenge. And what a henge is a ditch which has been dug deep, and then an embankment has been pushed up outside the ditch. When people first saw these structures, they wondered if they'd been built for defense. But then it became obvious they hadn't been built for defense, because if you want to create a moat, you put it outside your embankment, not inside your embankment. So a henge is an earthwork which consists of a deep moat with a large embankment outside it. It can be circular, it can be square, and in the UK and other parts of Europe it often contains stone circles, megalithic stone circles as well. The henge itself is entirely earth. What we find in the Amazon are thousands of henges that are now beginning to emerge from the cleared area of the jungle, and others that have been identified for the first time with LiDAR. LiDAR technology in the Amazon. It's non-destructive. You can see what's under the trees. What is LiDAR? Light imaging and protected radar. They bounce laser beams down into the jungle. It's a whole pattern of them in helicopters that they play, but it doesn't damage the rainforest. And you can strip away and see what's there. And if this isn't too much of a diversion, let me give you the example of Guatemala. Guatemala is a small country, if I remember correctly. It's not much more than 100,000 square kilometers in size. It is filled with intriguing Mayan ruins. Everybody has heard of Tikal. What archaeologists didn't know was that literally within walking distance of Tikal, surrounding that whole area, were more than 60,000 structures that they hadn't identified. And these have all been identified by LiDAR in a country that's just 100,000 kilometers in area. So you have to ask yourself, in that 5.5 million square kilometers of the Amazon, if LiDAR technologies could be applied comprehensively, what would we find beneath there? And the evidence already is extremely tempting and extremely tantalizing. And I'm intrigued by these huge geometrical figures, which involve primarily circles and squares. And they are classic henges in the sense that they are deep ditches surrounded by huge embankments. They're extremely geometrical. For example, you can find an octagon surrounding a square. At a place called Gyges in the Amazon, you can find a square perfectly enclosing a circle. Now that is an exercise called squaring the circle that our academics have given to the Greeks. They said the Greeks were the first people who performed that exercise. But now we find in dated sites in the Amazon that this was being done in the Amazon long before the Greeks. What are the dates? The earliest dates that have been found in these sites now are about 3,500 years old. About 3,500 years old. But the evidence is that the sites have been constantly remade. And what intrigues me is what remains in that 5.5 million square kilometers that has not been investigated. We are just, I think, looking at the edges of the mystery. The archaeologists involved, who are mainly from Finland and also from Brazil, feel the same. Their estimate is that there are thousands of these structures remaining in the jungle, and they're open as to how old they may ultimately prove to be. The investigation needs to be done. But what's fascinating about it is this very powerful geometry and astronomy. So a number of the sites are perfectly aligned to true north, true south, true east, and true west. I'm not talking about magnetic north, I'm talking about true astronomy. To do that, there's only one way to do it, and that's with astronomy. So that tells us that astronomers were very good. The geometry is very complex and very precise. That tells us that the geometrical skills were very good. And thirdly, the scale of the sites, hundreds of meters, gigantic earthworks on the scale of hundreds of meters, tells us that this was highly organized project that was undertaken on a very large scale, a very large amount of people. It's a wonderful history, and it preserves much further attention. And that's Gyges, exactly. The squares, squaring the circle. So you can see the outside embankment, and then inside it is the square ditch, and then there's another embankment inside that, and a circle inside.
Crazy they made a road right through that.
Well, a modern road, yeah, because there's no respect for the ancient world, unfortunately.
Wow, that's incredible.
So
how they found the stuff that they found in the Amazon? What imaging technology were they using to find all this?
Initially, it was entirely found because areas of the rainforest had been cleared. Economic interests said, we want to make a cattle ranch here, or we want to make a soybean farm here, so we're just going to clear the rainforest. In the process of clearing the rainforest, they start discovering these earthworks that had previously been completely overgrown by the jungle. Then the next step was to say, what can we do to find out more about this? Obviously, they don't want to destroy more jungle, and luckily we have a technology which is LiDAR, as I mentioned, which uses radar. And using LiDAR, they've been able to identify many more of these sites, and then to get to the sites without destroying the jungle, and to begin excavations on them, and to find that they go back create a perfectly geometrical, square, or circular earthwork that's perfectly aligned to true north, south, east, and west on an enormous scale. There has to be a background to that. There has to be a reason for doing it. And the evidence is none of these sites were lived in. There was no habitation refuse found in them whatsoever. We don't know what they were used for. I make a case in America before that they're connected to a system of ideas which is found all around the world, which is to do with death and the afterlife destiny of the soul. And I go into the issue of ayahuasca in this book because, first of all, ayahuasca is itself another example of Amazonian science. As you and I and many of the listeners and viewers know, the active ingredient of ayahuasca is DMT, dimethyltryptamine. But dimethyltryptamine is not normally accessible through the gut. We have to smoke it or vape it to get that rocket ship to the other side of reality. And the journey lasts, 10, 12 minutes, not much more than that, sometimes quite a lot less. What ayahuasca does is it makes DMT available through the gut. The reason it's not available through the gut is because of an enzyme in the gut called monoamine oxidase. That switches off DMT on contact. The ayahuasca vine, which is one of the two ingredients of the ayahuasca brew, the other ingredient is leaves that contain DMT. The ayahuasca vine contains a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which switches off the enzyme in the gut and allows the DMT to be accessed orally, which produces a rather different journey from the smoked or vaped DMT trip. It's a much longer journey. It's 4 or 5 hours. It allows you to integrate and to interrelate with the strange landscapes in which you find yourself amongst and the entities that you encounter. I'm not making any claims about the reality status of those entities, but what I am saying is a fact is that people who work with DMT and ayahuasca do encounter what they construe to be entities who communicate with them intelligently. So somebody in the Amazon, out of 150,000 different species of plants and trees, selected 2 that are not psychoactive on their own, but when put together, create an extraordinary visionary brew. And ayahuasca means the vine of the dead. And what it's connected to in South American religious and spiritual thinking is what happens to us when we die. The Tucano, who are an Amazonian people who work regularly with ayahuasca. I mean, the Tucano actually will give a teaspoonful of ayahuasca to a newborn infant. They feel ayahuasca is so important that there is a hidden realm around us which we are not normally aware of, and we need to be aware of it. And ayahuasca is an important part of that. In their ayahuasca journeys, the Tucano shamans experience visions, and they will then come back to an alert, normal problem-solving state of consciousness, and they will paint and depict their visions. And what's intriguing, and I go into it in the book, is that quite a number of the Tucano paintings of the other world, of the afterlife realm, the entrance to the other world, are geometrical, and they look exactly like the geoglyphs. So I'm beginning to wonder whether these geoglyphs were part of a system of spiritual ideas concerning what happens to us after death and what we need to do in this life to ensure a beneficial outcome. And oddly enough, that same system of ideas is found in the Mississippi Valley. In the Amazon, it involves particularly ayahuasca and the belief that the ayahuasca journey takes you to the afterlife realm and a journey along the Milky Way. In the Mississippi Valley, the mound builder sites up and down the Mississippi Valley, particularly Moundville in Alabama, exactly the same system of religious ideas associated with geometrical constructions. That on death, the soul, they're very specific, ascends to the constellation of Orion, transits from the constellation of Orion to the Milky Way, makes a journey along the Milky Way, which they call the path of souls, and encounters challenges and ordeals where the soul must account for the life that it has lived. Then we go to Egypt, and what do we find? The same system of ideas. The soul must rise up to the constellation of Orion. There's a narrow shaft cut through the southern side of the Great Pyramid of Giza, which targets directly the lowest of the 3 stars of Orion's belt. Widely accepted as a star shaft or a soul shaft. The soul would rise up through that shaft, get to the constellation of Orion, which stands by the banks of the Milky Way. It would then transit to the Milky Way, which the ancient Egyptians called the Winding Waterway. and it would make a journey along the Milky Way where it would be confronted by challenges and ordeals. Very similar idea to the Tucano, very similar idea to the Mississippi Valley. As far as we know, none of these cultures were in contact with one another. Either we're dealing with a huge, unbelievable, extraordinarily detailed coincidence involving architecture and ideas.
Oh my god, B-Rose got another 54. I'm going to lose my mind.
Inherited in all of these different places from a remote common ancestor. And I believe that's
Yeah, man.
What do we think?
I was thinking about that today. Like, that's probably what I'm going to like study in the future,
What do
I
we
think.
think they were using if they weren't using ayahuasca? Do we think that's what
Like,
they were
biology is interesting
Well,
and stuff, but
that's an interesting question, whether visionary substances are the only way to get into altered states of consciousness. And I would say they are definitely not. Of course, there are visionary substances which are used in
I want to
Native
study
American,
like
vision
comets and the theory of life coming to Earth from a
peyote
comet.
ceremony,
You know what I
with
mean?
The Native American Church.
I've never done that. What is that?
I loved it actually. I thought it was amazing. It doesn't overpower
Current answers
you
lie in the
way
oceans.
Your ayahuasca does. It's
In the
much
cosmos.
gentler, it's much more. You feel much more integrated and connected with nature. Your thought processes are quite clear. It felt just like a very beautiful and healing experience, and I loved the ceremony.
For
I'm
sure.
I'm inside a TV.
That's hard work though. That's a lot of
40
pressure.
There
So much
there are
pressure down there.
specific roles that are assigned to those different individuals. One will keep the door, another will be responsible for the fire, which is a work of art in itself. Just gazing into that fire and the glowing embers is enough to induce an altered state of consciousness on its own. Incredible drumming.
Is
which
CN Tower in the
drives your
ocean?
state of consciousness into a kind of
Really?
peak experience. This is a technology for accessing other levels of experience and other levels
Really?
of
What do you mean?
reality. And it's clear that the Native Americans had a number of advanced technologies in this area. The sun dance doesn't use a substance, but it uses austerity, it uses pain to drive an altered state of consciousness. The
Oh, as
objective
in like
every
it's
case
it's
seems
that
to be,
deep, yeah.
let's just for a while get ourselves out of the narrow, rigid frame of the alert problem-solving state.
James
of consciousness.
Cameron,
we all
man.
need that. It's incredibly useful. Hunter-gatherers need it just as much as people in cities need it. But it's not the only state of consciousness available to human beings. And maybe that's one of the big mistakes that we're making in our culture, and was not made in shamanistic societies.
That is a really interesting breakdown. That maybe that is one of the big mistakes we're making in our culture. When people point to the problems that we have in this country, one of the problems we have is our inability to connect
The deeper you go.
or to recognize that we're all
Other
sharing
world.
this space and time together, and instead wanting to uphold our own religious or ideological
Yeah, really.
ideas as being the only one way to get going.
Yeah.
The only one way to get through. And one of the things that I've found with these psychedelic experiences
What do you mean, like Jar Jar Binks?
really makes ideologies seem
I don't
if not
think so.
preposterous, at the very least insignificant in comparison to human experiences.
Absolutely.
The experience of camaraderie and friendship and love.
Dolphins, yeah, you're
You
right.
realize, like,
You're
oh,
right.
This is what's important.
This is what it's really about.
Yes,
Yeah.
not enforcing your ideas.
They
or
just don't have an
pushing
opposable
them on
thumb.
other people and forcing people to behave. the way you
Unfortunately
behave,
for
but
them.
Instead, love.
And think about religious
There must be
ideas,
something
which
down
cause
there,
so
yeah.
much division, so much chaos, so much hatred, so much fear, so much suspicion in the world today.
Maybe.
Is it really what we want to do as human beings? Simply to accept a package of ideas that were believed in by our ancestors, to accept them whole, without question, as absolute fact, which we regard as such authoritative fact that in some cases we're willing to be deeply unpleasant to people who hold different views, or perhaps even kill them. We've had this, this recent event in Sri Lanka, primarily a religiously motivated terrorist event. It happens all over the world. People feel so convinced that the inherited package of ideas that they had nothing to do with creating and that they have never questioned, they're so convinced that those ideas are right that in extreme cases they're actually
That's
prepared
true.
to kill other human beings who hold different ideas. Are they so insecure in their own beliefs that they're prepared to go to that level of actually murdering another human being who holds it? They're so threatened by the other beliefs that other human beings hold. So it's an abnegation of our responsibility as human beings. We should be questioning things. We should not be accepting packages of ideas intact, fully formed, and using them to drive the way we behave towards one another. That was part of the human story, but we need to move on from that. And it's a very dangerous situation in a very complex modern world with billions of human beings on the planet, to have these kind of energies being generated where certain groups of people are saying, we are absolutely right and you are absolutely wrong. We are superior, you are inferior. This is a very, very dangerous.
Yo, they would fuck us up, man. They're so huge.
Change. Personally, I know this is not a comment that will go down well with many people, but I am strongly opposed to nationalism. I don't see any virtue in nationalism. It is an accident of birth, which nation you were born in. It was nothing that you did for your own merit. You didn't earn that. You were born by accident in a particular nation. Why should we automatically feel that other people who were born by accident in that particular nation have something special in common with us, and that we together are a group who are much more important than other groups of people? I've been privileged to spend my life traveling around the world, living with communities all over the world, and one thing that really comes across to me strongly, it should be a cliche,
probably.
and yet it's not, is that we are all one family, that humans are intimately interconnected.
The camouflage
of
octopuses are
crazy. You can go to the
crazy.
remotest area of the Amazon jungle and find the same hopes, the same fears, the same dreams that we have in industrialized cities, shared by the hunter-gatherers in the middle of the Amazon. So our similarities as human beings and what we share in common at the emotional level and the level of love and at the level of heart are far more important than our differences that are defined by the nation or the political group in which we grew up in. And when I say I'm against nationalism, I need also to make clear that does not mean, and I hope I'm not taken out of context by others who are listening to this, that does not mean I'm in favor of world government. I detest governments. That's another thing we need to grow out of. We don't need governments anymore. If we have them, they should have a very minimal role in our society. I think it's possible for
Marine
human race
unit
to relate
canines.
as one family
I
without
hate
leaders and
military
governments who are
dogs.
exploiting the worst
Well, I mean,
aspects
unless
of
like
our character,
bomb-sniffing
the
dogs,
lowest
but I mean like
denominator of our society.
drug dogs. I hate drug
Deliberately
dogs. I hate drug
encouraging
dogs
fears
so
and
much.
hatreds and suspicion. What responsible leaders
I hate
should
drug
be
dog
doing
owners.
is encouraging love.
Drug dog
and unity.
owners are
And their
the
failure
lowest
to
of
do
the
that,
lowest human
in my
beings on
view,
this planet.
disqualifies them from the leadership role entirely. And that's why I've often said I would like to see a situation in which no head of state can be appointed to that position unless he or she
Just the run where I
has
fucking
first-hand wealth and
talk shit about drug dog owners.
That would be the condition. Don't even bother applying for the job if you haven't done this.
Because it's not the dog's
And we
fault.
have
The
to
dog
we
doesn't
wanna
know better.
see that
But
you're
the
doing
human
every
does.
job.
It's not the dog's
And we
fault.
want an experienced shaman present who's really going to guide you
Snooze
through
out
the
sea mines.
journey. And I suspect that that would be a transformative experience for many of our political class, and that they would start to question why they
I
do
hate
what
drug
they
dog
do,
owners so
why
much.
they exploit fears in order to magnify their own position. They'd start to question that and to wonder about a different destiny for humanity. But that's a dream. I guess it's not going to happen.
Very, very, very well said.
And then
I
the
couldn't agree more.
stupid
My
ass
hope is
dog,
that
like,
what you were saying,
I
and
found
we
the
were
drugs.
discussing earlier about how the internet has sort of
Fuck you,
eroded
dog.
our faith in many institutions as being the only or the primary source of knowledge. That I hope that takes place globally in terms of the way we view government.
It's not the dog's
We
fault.
do. And that your
It's not
idea
the
of-
dog's fault.
I love what America stands for. And what
It's the
America
owner's
stands
fault,
for is the kind of a
100%.
nation that's where people go to. You know, this is one of the more insidious problems.
And then they
with
walk around the
this
airport with them like a
idea of
bunch of like
building
assholes.
walls and keeping people
'Cause
out,
that's what
making
they
it
are.
incredibly difficult to get here. The reason why I'm here is because it was pretty easy to get here.
Yeah.
That's why
Purple
I'm here.
crab in
That's the
India.
essence of America, a free and open society.
Come
It's
here
crazy.
and do better.
Yes.
That's the whole idea behind it. And I would hope that this idea of being able to just, if you want to do better, you can anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
This could eventually spread out. This is my hope.
I believe it can spread out, and you know, I see many signs of hope in
Permanent.
America. America has become a big part of my life, not just because I wrote this book, but because I have children who are now living in America. I have a son and daughter-in-law who live in LA. I have another son and daughter-in-law who live in Boston. America, I'm British, but America has become a very central part of my life, and it's a fascinating and amazing country, and it's been my privilege to travel thousands of miles across America, across many, many, many different states, and I love this country. It's an amazing place. Only in America
Jesus Christ,
could we
what is
see
this, man?
happening what has happened with cannabis. You know, the fact
What
that at
the
a
fuck?
local level, individuals have
What
got
the
together,
fuck?
mobilized petitions, organized
fuck is
votes, and
this?
changed the law.
Jeez.
Changed the law. literally stuck a
man.
finger up at central government and said, fuck off, this is none of your business. What I do with my consciousness in the inner sanctum of my own life is not the business of the state. That's a very American feeling. It's something that you don't find often in other countries where the state is granted much more power and much more authority than it perhaps should be. Americans are naturally questioning of government authority, and that is what has led to the increasing legalization of cannabis, which is going to change the world in lots of ways. But then, ironically, at the same time, see, the thing about democracies is that in order to get things done in a democracy, you need to persuade people of your point of view. So information becomes very important in democracy. And information can be abused. People can be misled with information. They can be told that what they're receiving is the truth, whereas in fact it's not the truth. And you can end up with a kind of dictatorship that the people have given
Oh my
their
god, that was the
assent to
world's
on the
fastest
basis of
reaction.
false information. And frankly, I'd
So
rather have a
fast.
real dictatorship, which is out in the open and clear, rather than one that has been subtly manipulated into position through manipulating the views of the voters. But I am and remain enormously encouraged by America. It may seem like a trivial issue, but the fact that state by state cannabis is being legalized, and that is resulting from a grassroots movement, that this enormous change has been made. It's ironic, it's strange that at the federal level, even though 8 states now totally legal for recreational, 23, 24 states legal for medical use, that at the federal level it's still a Schedule I controlled drug. This is a huge state of dissonance that exists, and America's going to have to put it right. What it says to me is that people can change things. People can get together at the local level, and they can make a better world. Because there's no doubt that the cannabis laws were vicious and wrong and cruel and evil and ruined people's lives for decades. And it's people who've changed that. It's not government who's changed that, it's the people at the grassroots level. America's a country where that can happen. And I remain encouraged about the role of the American people, while often in despair about the role of the American state.
Yeah, I'm encouraged as well. And you know, it's interesting. Ben and Jerry released something yesterday, which is really 420, I should say, which was talking about the drug laws in this country and talking about how many. It's really opening the idea of like how unjust these laws were, and how many of these laws targeted people of color, and how many people who are white people have profited off of this, and how many people are still in jail for crimes that they committed, you know, air quote crimes that are no longer crimes.
That are no longer crimes.
Yeah, and this is ridiculous. And these records should be expunged.
They should be completely expunged. I see that California has made some steps in that direction.
Yes.
There has been some expunging of records.
Well, we can only hope that also what opens up.
What's
next
going on?
is psilocybin
My finger
is now
slipped.
going to be on the ballot.
Are you
Absolutely.
serious?
When that opens
I've been
up,
playing this for
what,
like
you really think marijuana is a
hundreds
gateway
of
drug?
hours.
Guess what?
It's
It
never
is
slipped.
if psilocybin gets in.
Yes.
Because
Can you
psilocybin
imagine?
can legitimately change the world.
I can't believe that even happened.
Really, I mean, I think marijuana can change the world, and I really do think that cannabis is changing people's perceptions and making people more calm and friendly, and even what they talk about with paranoia, I welcome that. And the reason why I
Fucking
welcome that is
Mercury
I think people
retrograde,
are
man.
entirely
Your finger's
too
slipping
calm.
off the goddamn buttons.
The life we live is bizarre as you could ever imagine in a book, and we're just accustomed to it because it's our day-to-day
Take it all
existence.
for granted. Yeah.
Marijuana removes those blinders.
It does.
And it really makes you understand that this is a strange, strange life. And a lot of these pitfalls and problems that we have in our society are due to fear, and they're due to ignorance, and they're due to this lack of connection with each other. And cannabis and many of these other psychedelic drugs, they encourage this connection with each other, which is, I think, what we need.
It's certainly what we need, and it's an aberration in human culture that we've created a society that demonized these substances and made them illegal. It's a relatively recent thing. It's really just the last 100 years. It's a tiny part of the human story, and yet we're so arrogant as a society that we could set aside thousands of years of human tradition and experience and wisdom working with the plant medicines. We just set it aside, turn them into criminal substances, and say we know everything. What a huge and stupid mistake that is. On cannabis as a quote-unquote gateway drug, it absolutely is in this sense that the legalization of cannabis is going to open the doors to, as you say, to the legalization of psychedelics, because what's happening is that the population is completely waking up to the fact that they have been bullshitted and lied to about cannabis for the best part of a century. And once that dawns on people, the realization at a direct personal level, here's this herb I love. I have been
How's B-Rose doing?
systematically misinformed by central governments about this herb. That leads to questioning of everything.
Dude, if I see another 54, I'm gonna lose my
It is a
mind.
gateway to a questioning society. The psychedelics are different.
Terrible children
in that,
still
in
going.
that psilocybin actually does lead you to question stuff. It leads you to really ask questions about everything, about your role in the world, about you as a person, about how you relate to other people, and about the whole system on this planet and the beautiful, gorgeous planet that we have and what we're doing to it. That also enters awareness. So
it erodes confidence and authority, and it also erodes confidence and authority that doesn't have experiences that you've experienced. That's the part of the problem, is that these people that are holding people back from these psychedelic experiences, they've never had them.
They've never had
so they don't even know what they're rallying.
I don't know.
Coming to it from a place
No
of
worries,
fear
buddy.
and
Thanks,
prejudice,
buddy.
they're
I saw him.
simply
He's still
accepting
going.
stuff
Still
that they've
going.
been told without really thinking it through and
Yeah, when I
examining
said that,
it,
I'm
and
like, that's
again,
not
it's a
really the
failure
smart thing for
of
me to.
what human beings should
It's
be
really
doing.
not the
We
smart
have to
thing for me to
we
say
have
as a
get rid of this
streamer.
fear.
And ironically, it's bad.
I don't
for
have
them
I
as
don't
well.
have
It's
that
bad for
like
people that are actually
stay
encouraging
and watch
this-
me type
these
of
laws
vibe in
to
my
be
streams.
enforced.
I don't know why.
It's bad
I think
for
I
them. It's
do.
bad for the whole of society, because
But
it is
man,
healthy
like,
for a society.
I don't know
where
if Twitch,
adults become
I don't know if
self-realized
it's one
individuals,
chatter, but
where
like,
they
man.
make their own responsible choices about their own lives, where they don't say,
Man.
"Oh, government must make this choice for me." That's the next step for humanity. We need to start becoming our own leaders.
I love that you're here though, man.
our
You,
own
that's it, man.
Choices. And that
I love
is-
that you're here.
is
You made
what's
the
being
stream.
revealed
Same with
now
Eric
that we're
subbing and
getting
Angel
to the skull beneath the
being
smile
here.
of the war on drugs. We're realizing that it's part of a big program of lying that has been about keeping people's minds closed down, not wanting free thinking. I've made this point several times, but our society is not against altered states of consciousness as such. Our society will allow Big Pharma to make billions of dollars with drugs that alter consciousness, like Seroxat and Prozac, antidepressants, which in my opinion, having had some experience of them, are amongst the most horrible drugs on the planet. They are very harmful, very dangerous drugs, but they're completely legal and they're very good for our system. Likewise, alcohol, very dangerous drug, causes fights, causes drunk driving accidents, leads to cirrhosis of the liver, completely legal and open. Our society is not against altered states of consciousness. As such, it's against particular kinds of altered states of consciousness that lead to questioning of the existing control system. That's what's going on.
Here, here. Well said.
And as you know, I have my own story with cannabis.
Yes,
And
well, you and I had a moment.
we had a moment, which was quite a life-changing moment for me, because if I may just rehearse a little bit of this for the audience. In 2011, I had a series of ayahuasca sessions in which it was shown to me that I was using cannabis completely wrong. That it had become a dominant force in my life, that it was making me, you're speaking about paranoia, and I agree with you, paranoia is a useful thing, if only to overcome it, that it was making me paranoid, that it was making me suspicious, that I approached everybody around me in a state of suspicion.
This level's so hard,
and I
man.
was shown this by ayahuasca, and given a very strong message, you need to quit cannabis. What I didn't realize at the time is that the problem was not cannabis, the problem was me. That I needed to fix those aspects of myself before I could have a proper relationship with cannabis. So after that ayahuasca session, having smoked cannabis for decades, literally 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, I quit. I quit for 3 years. And then I'm on your show, and we're sitting opposite one another as we are now, and you ask me a question, are you still off the cannabis? And I say, well, I'm thinking of dipping my toes back in the water, at which point you produce a joint. and we smoke it together. First of all,
Alright, I brought the TV
after 3
closer.
years,
Let's see
your
how
tolerance is
that
way
goes.
down on cannabis, so I got really stoned. I did listen to that interview back, and somehow I held it together.
Oh, you held it together brilliantly. You opened up, and it was like a wave of information came pouring out of you. It was wonderful. To
It was a
watch.
liberation for me, and what it said to me is, it's time to go back to cannabis, but perhaps in a different way. It
Yeah.
doesn't. I need a different relationship with this amazing medicine, And if I can forge that, if I can make that different relationship happen, then it can be a constructive and positive part of my life. And I can say definitely that
And
has
rules
been
are
the
Ferrari
case.
for being here.
And so it's all thanks to you, Joe. I probably would still be off cannabis if it hadn't been for that, Joe.
Well, I think that people can develop these patterns of behavior that are destructive with anything, whether it's with alcohol or cannabis or
Yes.
sex or anything. People they get in ruts.
Yeah.
And, you know, it doesn't mean that the cannabis is bad. It means that you are on a bad mental path.
Yes.
You know.
Exactly.
And I mean, I'm not encouraging it for everybody because some people it genuinely biologically doesn't jive with them.
Yeah. But the fundamental thing is we as adult human beings need to take responsibility for our own lives and our own decisions. And we need not hand that responsibility over to governmental institutions, especially when it concerns
All right, move the TV closer so.
personal as our
Let's see.
And my view is the ancient world had the right attitude to this kind of thing, and the modern world does not, and that we can sit down and learn a lot from the ancient world. A lot of people ask me,
Is it too close now?
Hank,
I wonder.
arguing that there's been a lost civilization in the human story.
No, it's way better.
What sort of civilization do you think it was?
It's
Well,
more
one of the
intense,
things I
but
think
it's
is
better.
It was a civilization that used psychedelics. I think it was a civilization that emerged from shamanism, but did not stay at the hunter-gatherer stage, but that took the essence of shamanism and integrated it into a very different civilization from our own, which pursued things in different ways. A lot of archaeologists have said to me, but we don't find any plastic bottles from the Ice Age. That means there was no advanced civilization during the Ice Age. Well, hang on. Maybe an advanced civilization might have decided never to get involved in plastic in the first place. Maybe there would have been a clear choice not to make plastic. Maybe they did things in completely different ways. Maybe they cultivated powers of the human mind that we dismiss and regard as completely unimportant. You know, woo-woo.
Yeah, this is the thoughts about Egypt, correct?
It's about Egypt and about other things. I mean, the specific example I give is above the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid are 5 further chambers. And these chambers are roofed and floored with granite beams that weigh about 70 tons each. And there are hundreds of them. And these 70-ton granite beams, which to put in context, a 70-ton beam is equivalent in weight to 35 large SUVs. These 70-ton granite beams have been elevated to a height of more than 350 feet above the ground and carefully and precisely placed in position. It is very hard for archaeologists to explain how that was done using purely leverage and mechanical advantage. You can say, oh, perhaps they built a ramp and hauled the stones up the ramp. Then you have to confront basic laws of physics. You can't haul a stone weighing tens of tons up a slope that exceeds 10 degrees. Then you start doing the calculation. How long a ramp do I need with a 10-degree slope to get to 350 feet above the ground? And the answer is you need a fucking long ramp, which should still be there, because it couldn't have been a sand ramp. It would have collapsed under the weight of those stones. It had to be as massive as the pyramid itself. So this begins to seem like an absurd idea, the idea that is foisted on us by archaeology. Maybe the idea that they regard as absurd, namely that psychic powers were cultivated by ancient civilizations, that they could use powers of the human mind that we have allowed to lapse, maybe that idea deserves further consideration. We have gone down a path of leverage and mechanical advantage. We're used to relying on machines, but we hear anecdotal reports of people who have
Brutal. That was the worst case sciencio. That was such a good run.
Is to just dismiss all of that because science says it's impossible. Because science
It ate my
regards
input.
consciousness as local.
It ate my
The brain
input.
doesn't see how it can exert itself outside of that. But maybe we should open up to those possibilities, that we're dealing with a very different kind of culture that used techniques that we have allowed to lapse. And maybe we could wake those techniques up again. Maybe the ability of human beings to do almost superhuman things is resident within all of us, but sleeping.
Well, it's pure speculation that they use some sort of a telekinetic power, but it's
Pure speculation.
But it's absolute that they did something that we don't understand. If you think about the distance between us and the construction, just the modern accepted construction dates of the Great Pyramid, it's more than 5,000 years ago, or close to 5,000 years ago.
Great Pyramid's supposed to be about 4,500 years old, yeah.
Poor B-Rose, man.
Incredibly old, yeah.
Imagine if I was picked for League and I had to play Dam today.
Yeah.
And
Can you
that
imagine?
somehow or another they figured this out. It's
I'm not
almost
hating
like
on B-Rose. I'm not
what
hating on
they had
Dam.
done was
I'm
leave
just saying
behind something that
I'm
was
really
so
happy I wasn't picked because I would
so
not want to play that level.
monstrously impressive
Ever.
that it would transcend time.
Yeah.
That you would have to look at it even thousands and thousands of years later and say, hey, like this defies conventional.
It's like
explanation. This is not a
if
simple, and I've seen some of the conventional.
if I could have
explanations
psychologically
of the
made the
construction of
value
pyramid,
that
they
others
neglect
put
those
into
chambers
me
above the king's chamber.
They do.
They
back
conveniently
then,
neglect a lot of
worth
those
it?
massive stones.
there's
And it's
no
because
way that
it's one of those things
I
you
would
just go, "Oh, I don't
that
know. What is this
value
chamber?"
has increased
They're the
over the
chambers,
last
above the king's chamber.
2
Each
weeks.
one of those floors consists of a row
Like there's no
of
way
70
that's
tons
ever gonna happen
blocks,
in the history of the
that have
future
been
ever.
raised 350 feet above the ground, and not only that, but
Unfortunately. And that's not my doing. I put my best foot forward.
South of the Great Pyramid. So
If there's any time in history where you could go in a time machine and go back and observe, would that be the time?
I am just completely fascinated by the Ice Age at,
The Ice Age.
at the moment.
If you had one shot to go back and see what it was like in some place, you wouldn't go to the construction of the Great Pyramids?
I think right now where I'd go is 12,800 years ago in the beginning of the Younger Dryas.
Just to see.
Because I think that's where the whole human story changes. I think that's where we change tracks from one path to another path. And following those cataclysmic events of the Younger Dryas between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago, following those, the signs of civilization that we see emerging are not the beginnings of civilization. They're a restarting of civilization that had existed before the cataclysm. And for that reason, I would like to be present during that cataclysmic event, if only to satisfy myself that it was indeed a comet. You see, the one thing there's no dispute about anymore is that the Younger Dryas was a cataclysm. You can't argue about that. The megafauna that die off, the disruption of human activity that takes place at that time, the huge climate changes. This was a cataclysm by any standards. Where the argument still goes on is what caused the cataclysm. I vote strongly for comet, multiple fragments of a comet hitting the North American ice cap and hitting Greenland as well. But there are other researchers in the field, like my colleague Robert Schock, who thinks that the sun is more involved. This is healthy. This is very, very healthy. That we should be approaching this problem from many different perspectives and trying to figure out what the fuck caused this extraordinary event that occurs at a pivotal moment in the human story. The end of the Stone Age, the beginning of the Mesolithic, the end of the Ice Age, the beginning of the current age of the Earth. And suddenly we see these signs of civilization appearing, and in places like Göbekli Tepe, those signs already include highly sophisticated knowledge. And that's why I feel we really need to investigate the Amazon. There are 3 places in the world which are really lacking in investigation right now. One of them is the Amazon, 5.5 million square kilometers, very little archaeology. Another is the Sahara Desert. The Sahara Desert, tough place to work. I can understand why there's little archaeology done there. But the Sahara Desert was green during the Ice Age. It had a completely different climate regime. We should consider the possibility that missing parts of the human story are there. And then under the continental shelves, because sea level rose 400 feet. These are 3 domains that archaeology has largely not investigated. And it is largely not done so. They say, well, why would we spend the money on marine archaeology? Much better to spend it on looking for shipwrecks rather than looking for signs of a lost civilization, because we archaeologists know there was no lost civilization. So that's the argument for the resources there. And the same with the Amazon, and the same with the Sahara Desert. Places, the very places in the world that those amongst us who are charged with the responsibility of interpreting the past have not looked at are the very places we should be looking at.
I had a thought once while I was under the influence, and it was a thought that one day computational powers will reach a point where they will be able to take into consideration all of the objects on Earth and what we know about the history, and vividly recreate the past through computation, to the point where you could actually know who did what, when people did things, and that, I mean, I don't even know if this would be physical. Today, it certainly not be possible, but with the exponential increase in computational power and technology and innovation that one day we'll reach a point where you'll be able to watch, you'll be able to see what happened.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to recreate what happened exactly. And that this will
Really?
be
You're like,
something
what
that
the
would be,
fuck, man?
it's impossible for us to imagine that someone would be able to do that right now.
Yeah.
But that one day with technology, as it gets more and more advanced, we will reach some sort of some innovation.
Oh my God, let's go.
Some sort of invention that
Let's
will
go.
allow us to go back and see, literally see what happened.
Really, really good run. Come on.
Technology is changing.
What?
our
The
whole
triple?
understanding of the
You
past.
can't be
What we're
serious.
envisaging is
This game, man.
we will come to a time if we
Oh,
don't,
man.
perhaps less, if we don't, first destroy ourselves entirely as a civilization, we will come to a time where our cleverness and our techniques will allow a much wider opening up of the past than is presently happening, but it is already happening. One of the areas of science that I go into in America before is genetics and DNA. This is an area of science that was not much informing archaeology until about the 1990s, but since the 2000s has become very important in archaeology because the technology has been developed where ancient DNA can be extracted and tested, and you can actually genotype an entire individual from DNA that may be 15, 20,000 years old. And this new technology of genome sequencing and DNA is another factor that is raising huge question marks over the past of the Americans. And one of the issues I go into in this book is the presence in the Amazon rainforest of a very specific, clearly identifiable pattern of DNA, which is only found in one other place in the world, and that is in Australasia, in Papua New Guinea, and amongst Australian Aborigines. It's Australasian DNA. Now,
In South America.
not only in South America, but in the depths of the Amazon rainforest, amongst tribes who've only been contacted in the last 20 or 30 years. And furthermore, although skeletal remains are rare, it has been found in ancient skeletal remains that are close to 11,000 years old in the Amazon. So that tells us that this DNA signal has been in the Amazon for at least 11,000 years. The geneticists think that it came to the Amazon during the last ice age. And this raises a huge mystery, because the peopling of the Americas is supposed to have occurred from Siberia, across the Bering Straits, down through that ice-free corridor into North America, down through North America, into South America, into Central America, and finally into South America. If that was the whole story, then we would find this DNA signal in North America and in Central America. We would not find it only in the Amazon. When I talked to some of the leading geneticists about this, specifically Professor Espe Willislev at the University of Copenhagen, who's been the lead author in a number of major studies of ancient DNA, and I asked him, what do you
I might
make
play
of
this for another maybe
Australasian
10,
DNA
15 more minutes.
in the Amazon? And
I'm not
he
gonna
said,
play this all
honestly,
night, but I am
we
feeling
don't
pretty
have
good
a
about it.
proper explanation for
I'm
it
feeling
at
like
the moment, but what he
feeling
did
like
say
I'm
is
back
that
in the
most
zone, you know what I mean?
Parsimonious explanation, he used that specific word, the most
I'm
parsimonious
getting some really good
explanation
starts.
is that a group of people
It's gonna be just a
during
matter of
the Ice
time.
Age crossed the Pacific Ocean.
I'm gonna
and
watch
settled up
B-Rose
and
in the
ended up in South
background.
America
And
settled
Eric,
in the
is Eric
Amazon
still
and brought
online?
their DNA with them. That
Mop
would
is online,
account
he's playing Pokemon.
perfectly for the
Eric's
DNA
going for
data. And when
runway.
a scientist says the most parsimonious explanation, what that scientist is saying is he likes that explanation. That it's a simple,
Eric's
direct,
still going.
clear explanation of
How
the
does Eric
DNA
only have one
mystery.
viewer?
But then he
What?
added, however, it doesn't make practical
Not
sense.
cool.
And I asked him, well, why doesn't it make practical sense? And he said, because the archaeologists
Eric's like
tell
the
me
anchor. I'm gonna click
that
on.
no
He
human
is gonna
population was
hoard
capable
or
of crossing
die.
the Pacific Ocean during the Ice Age, at which point it was natural for me to say, do you really trust
One
the
viewer.
archaeologists? And he said, well, in science we do
David
trust the
stole
work
all
of
the
other
viewers,
scientists. We
yeah.
don't really question it, we don't really investigate it. That's their side of the business.
I mean,
and my
can
view
you blame him?
is that is rather than
He is like the world, like
rather
the
than
one of the
accept-
world's
rather
best
than
Goldeneye
taking
players.
this weird, anomalous Australasian
And
DNA
I am
signal in the
not
heart of the Amazon, as
in
something
comparison to
be
David Clemens.
explained away, and as something to be
I think I am one of the like.
denied, that it could be connected
Of the
to a
English
voyage across
Goldeneyes,
the Pacific Ocean. Maybe it's the first
this is
compelling
not like
evidence
this
that
isn't even
voyages
top
were
10
taking
time, but
place
still,
across
it's
the
like
Pacific Ocean during the Ice Age.
It's something.
And maybe we
It's
should
definitely
be opening
something.
up that whole issue for exploration. And
Retirement,
again, I think
return
a
week,
lost
yeah, man.
civilization is the best answer. And that near the end of the Ice Age, when
I
the
chose,
younger
like,
Dryas cataclysm unfolds,
If I
it's
wanted,
not
if
over.
but I don't want more
It's
viewers.
very
I
much
achieved
12,000
my
years ago.
I
It's
achieved
about
my goal
1,200 years of horror. I don't think this civilization went
of
down in a single day.
affiliate.
I think
So
there
I
were
don't
survivors. I think
I'm
bits
not
of it
like
left.
I don't
think
go
their
to
project
bed
was to
now.
restart
For
civilization.
6 months.
And
I can
suggest
believe
very
it. Well, I mean, he's
strongly
been
that
playing this
where
game
they
for like
tried
20
to mount
years.
that project
I was
was
gone
amongst
for
hunter-gatherers
I was
who
gone for what?
coexisted in the world with
17
them
years,
at that time.
right?
We ourselves are an advanced civilization. At least that's what
So
we
I
call
can't
ourselves.
like
And we coexist in the world.
didn't even
with
switch games. He was
hunter-gatherers.
gone.
It's not an odd idea
Yeah.
that an advanced civilization and hunter-gatherers should coexist. And
Wow,
there is
you feel like
separation
hurt.
between us
You
and the
feel
Amazonian hunter-gatherers.
you
There
feel
are tribes of the
betrayed. I
Amazon
can feel it.
that are uncontacted. and
I'm
that
amazed by
we
that people
don't
still
know,
subscribe to
even
him during that
exist.
time. I'm like, damn, you must be like rich.
A catastrophe.
Like, it's not.
on the
It's like
level
that's a lot of
younger
money
Dryas
subscription, man.
were to occur today.
That's like
I
what
don't
six,
think that our civilization
7
would
times
make it.
6. That was
We are the
$56
spoiled children of the earth. We are
for
just
like
used to having everything
for
laid
for
on
for nothing for
supermarket
free.
shelves
$56 for free.
with food. We can get food delivered to our homes.
I'm
We
not
have
judging
roofs over
them.
our
They're
head, we
they're
have
the
shelters,
pillars
we
and
have
the anchors of
everything
our
is taken for
society, or
granted.
Golden Knight
I
society.
guess you're an exception, but very few
They switch
people
games like
in
Cheese
modern
Babe,
Western
Buster Murray,
culture know
switch
how to
Call of
survive.
Duty.
They don't have survival skills. They don't know how to hunt. They don't know how to gather. They don't know how to grow crops because they've handed that responsibility over to others. We live in a society that's highly segmented and specialized, and different people specialize in different things, but nobody has the vast general survival skill that a hunter-gatherer has. So in a global
Yeah,
capitalism,
man. I don't know.
actually,
I do
at
want to
first
get one more
counterintuitively,
PB in this level, but
the
I might
people
have
who
to
would
start playing
survive
a
it
different
would
level,
be the
man.
hunter-gatherers. And an advanced civilization
'Cause
would
it's
be
just
smart
like-
if they were survivors to seek refuge amongst hunter-gatherers.
I know
to
I'm
make
better
that
than
a place where they
146.
might
I know
try
I
to
am.
restart their civilization. And that's why I think that this Australasian DNA signal in the Amazon may be part of the evidence for a sort of outreach effort that was being made by a lost
But it's
civilization,
like-
seeing
it's-
the disaster coming
It's
down.
like I could
and
play other
realizing
levels
something
too.
needed to be done.
Well, it's fascinating to me that the geneticists would rely on the archaeologists, being that the geneticists have the actual DNA that they can examine, where the archaeologists are piecing things together.
Yeah,
Little
absolutely.
tiny bits of information over the entire landscape.
Yeah.
And then you consider how much information they don't have access to that's in the ground. So much.
I strongly resist the idea.
Don't know why you don't volunteer to go into
I
orbit.
don't think it should be described as a science.
What do you
I don't
think
know.
you should describe it?
It's more like a kind of philosophy.
I'm not down.
It's,
I'm not-
it's
I'm-
an
I'm
attempt
cool here.
to
I'm cool.
interpret the past based on rather flimsy and limited evidence. And what you find in that
I would probably
interpretation is
freak
that
out. I'd probably
preconceptions of
freak
the
out. Some of my
individuals
thirst for the
involved are being
cosmos.
imposed upon the evidence, which then
Yeah,
turns
in
out to
terms of
support
ensuring that I never want to leave Earth
preconceptions. And that's
ever
not the
again.
scientific way of doing it. The scientific way of doing things is testing hypotheses and seeking to falsify.
It's like the ghetto tours, like the tourism of ghettos, like or third world countries, unfortunately, sadly. Oh my gosh, Bureau's reveal. He plays out the cinema every single time.
Has been much too rigid, and
Like, it
and
kills
there's
me.
a-
It doesn't
there's a
kill me at
climate
all,
of
but I mean,
fear
it's just like
in archaeology.
54,
I don't
man.
need to
I
pick
can't.
particularly
I
on
can't.
archaeologists here.
I
think
can't
this is
watch this,
generally
man.
true,
D-Rose, you gotta get it,
across
bro.
other disciplines as
You gotta
well.
get it, man.
Um,
I believe in you, bro.
These days, academics are driven
I
by the need
believe.
to publish research papers. That's what they build their careers on. If they can get a paper on their bit of research published in Nature or the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, etc., that's good for their careers.
I
Then
think
you
if I
confront
think I would only
the
do
atheists in
54
those
twice.
publications who
Like
regard
once, actually.
any archaeological idea that is not part of the mainstream accepted consensus with great suspicion, and are most reluctant to publish that information.
Now, what is the mainstream? When archaeologists talk about seafaring humans, what do they date that to?
Well, the
Polynesians,
great seafaring adventure that is accepted by archaeology.
I'm
is
not
called
really
the
afraid of the
Polynesian
height.
expansion. And it's a remarkable story, and that occurs roughly 3,000.
I'd be
to
afraid of
3,500
just the
years ago.
feeling
And those
of like I'm
Polynesians
falling,
were
feeling
amazing
like I'm
ocean
falling.
navigators. They could
Not that I'm
cross
actually falling.
distances of thousands of kilometers.
I don't know. I'm just
pinpoint
making it up.
accuracy. I mean, it's not an accident that the Polynesians found Easter Island. Finding Easter Island is a really challenging project, Easter Island is 2,000 miles from the coast of South America. It's 2,000 miles from the nearest other island, which is Tahiti. It's just a little speck in the middle of the ocean, but the Polynesians found it and settled there and appear to have brought a reproductively viable population there and appear to have made voyages.
Or rockets blow
back
up
and
before
forth.
the fall.
But that was 3,000 to 3,500 years ago. That was not 12,800
Yeah.
years ago. And this is
That's
where
friggin' terrifying.
archaeology's adamant position that ocean voyaging was begun by the Polynesians and that there was no major ocean voyages before that, I think needs to be strongly questioned, and it needs to be strongly questioned in the light of this DNA evidence from the Amazon, rather than rejecting the evidence. An attempt should be made to consider what that might mean.
Well, it's interesting.
Yeah,
because
man,
we
I
know
mean-
that the Egyptians had boats.
Yeah.
And
I don't think I'm gonna have a
so
miracle
why-
run in the
if
next,
there
like,
were boats
5 minutes.
4,500
Maybe 5 more
years ago,
minutes,
why
man.
do we think that they didn't try them out in the ocean? That doesn't make any sense, especially if they existed 1,000 years prior, which is also
Yeah,
possible.
5 more minutes,
No,
dude.
archaeologists wouldn't argue that the Egyptians had boats, but that is
Thanks
that
for
is
being here,
still
man.
within the
I don't, it's
framework
not
of
like I'm
acceptance.
rushing off because you're talking.
It's the notion of a,
It's
of
just
a
done.
global navigating culture.
I don't want to
in
play
the
past
Ice Age
midnight.
that archaeologists
And I do want to see
can't swallow.
B-Rose
It's a
get
subject that I've
53.
kept on coming up against over a number of years. I think the best evidence for it is ancient maps,
And Eric at 22.
which show the world as it looked during the last ice age. I first explored this in Fingerprints of the Gods, and I've touched on the mystery again, and I have an appendix on the subject in this book, because I think these are very important. We're talking about maps that were drawn roughly between the 1300s and the 1700s. In other words, in relatively recent history. However, these maps were largely based on much older source maps, which they copied. And we can say that for sure, because one of the famous maps is the Piri Reis map, which was created by a Turkish admiral called Piri Reis in the year 1513. Actually, only a
One
corner
more-
of his
one more
map
pretty
is
good run,
survived. It
or
was originally
3
a
minutes
world
from now.
map. We now just have a bit that shows the east coast of South America and North America.
Yeah, I'm
and the
like-
west
I'm
coast
so
of
done.
Africa. Piri Reis writes in that map that it is in his own handwriting that he based it on more
Yo,
than
thanks for being your
100
dick.
older source maps.
Lance Bass
some
supposed
of
to go
which
into
had
orbit?
come
Oh,
from
yeah,
the
what happened?
Library of Alexandria. In other words, that maps had been, when the Library of Alexandria had been destroyed in the 4th century.
Was it
AD,
all-
and
was it
there
all
was-
just hype?
Some of
Was
its
it all
contents
fake?
had been rescued and brought to Constantinople, which became the Turkish capital.
Did he
Piri
not-
Reis had
did he not
access
do
to
that?
those
Did he not
maps.
go into orbit?
He incorporated information from those maps on his maps, as well as incorporating more recent navigational information. And this is one of a whole
Sponsors pulled up
category of
because they were
maps,
worried if he
which are
died,
extremely hard to explain.
tarnish their image.
All of them based on older source maps.
Wow.
now lost. All of them incorporating
Wow.
extremely precise relative longitudes and latitudes.
That's like reverse.
Latitude is not that difficult.
That's like
to
reverse
technologically
Tupac.
but
That's like
longitude
reverse
is
Biggie.
difficult technological feat. Longitude involves a chronometer. It involves knowing the time at the place you began your voyage and the local moon as well, and calculating the difference between them. You need a chronometer that will keep accurate time at sea with the motions of the ship. And it's just a plain fact that our civilization did not invent such a chronometer until the late 18th
That's sad,
century.
man.
Before that, we didn't know what longitude we were at, and ships were constantly sailing unexpectedly.
Is he not like a
into
millionaire?
coastlines
Is he
that
not
they
like a
thought were hundreds of
multi-millionaire?
miles, further away. So the discovery of the technique to do longitude was
Maybe
a
not.
major civilizational advance.
Maybe he wasn't
Its presence in
multi-millionaire.
maps based on much older
Maybe he
sources
signed it
that
as like a
actually show the
no-name boy
world as it
band
looks
contract
during the
and
last
they-
ice age
and his
suggests
contract's
that
really
somebody
bad.
during
That's
the
an
last
interesting
ice
case
age
study.
mapped the world
I
and
wonder
had
how
mastered
much
the
money
technique of
Instinct actually
calculating,
made.
longitude. Classic
Millionaire
example
from spending your own
of
money.
These maps, and I make a
That's
point
true.
of this, is what's called the Pinkerton world map.
Imagine being a millionaire and be like, yeah, I want to spend every single cent on going into
It was
orbit.
based on the
Dude,
latest
that'd be so
navigational
ridiculous.
information at that time. I reproduced that map in the book. What's missing from the map, entirely missing, is Antarctica. There's just a hole at the bottom of the world. There's nothing there. And the reason there's nothing there, there's another Pinkerton map that shows that. The reason that you need to find one that's centered on Antarctica. The reason that Antarctica is not there is that our civilization hadn't discovered Antarctica in 1818. So they
All right,
cooked up
one
Antarctica,
more,
put it on
like.
the map in 1818.
I think this might be the
Actually, we
last round,
discovered it
man.
in 1890, and that's when it starts appearing on modern maps. The problem is that Antarctica appears repeatedly.
Alright, one more good start.
on
One
these
more good,
much
like,
older
good
maps,
first
and
round.
it appears in the right place. and a bit
I'm gonna have to
bigger
really
than it is
think about
today,
what
but
I
very
wanna
much
do
as
with
it
this
looked
level.
during the last ice age. So what all of this suggests to me is that the world was mapped and explored by a global seafaring culture with a level of technology that was at least equivalent to ours at the end of the 18th century during the ice age.
Wasn't there also a map of Greenland that showed it underneath the ice?
Yes, there are, and another intriguing thing. I mentioned the Piri-Reis map just now. Shown on the Piri-Reis map, lying off the east coast of North America, is a large island.
This is the
with a
last
row
run.
of
This is a
megaliths,
really
like
good run,
row
too.
Of megaliths
Come on.
running up the middle of it. That island is in the exact place of the Grand Bahama Banks.
What? Really?
Yeah, it
That's
is,
it, man. That's it. That's what I'm gonna end it on. I know. I know. All right, one more.
It's great that you can bring this up. So this island is sitting there off the southeast coast of North America.
Look at the way they used to draw things back then, too.
And what you see running down the middle of it is this road-like feature of megaliths.
Yes, I see right there, yeah.
A long period of my life when I did a lot of
Brutal, man.
when I was looking at underwater structures. And one of the sites I dived on was the Bimini Road, which is in the Grand Bahama Banks. And the Bimini Road is exactly where that island is. And here's the issue.
That's it.
I
I'm
don't
done.
care
That's
whether the Bimini
it.
Road is natural
Have you heard
or
about the
man-made.
Delta
For me, the
variant?
mystery
No.
is that
What's
it's
that,
shown
man?
above water on that map.
Thanks for
And
being
the
here,
last time
buddy.
it was
Thanks for
above
being here,
water was
Rolls.
thousands and thousands
Or
of years ago.
Ferrari.
So for me,
Eric
this is
the
all
sub,
evidence
Angel,
that we
Straight
should have
Eric.
dismissed the possibility.
What's
Since
Delta
had
variant? Let's look
achieved
it
a
up.
level of technology where they could explore and counter the world's oceans. We shouldn't dismiss that.
Thanks for being here,
So
man.
we don't know what those stones are, how they were created, but boy, do they look artificial.
That's Yonaguni in Japan
that's
we're looking at now. But
Go back to that image, Jamie, the last image that we were just looking at. Look at that. I mean, that looks so man-made.
That was good. That felt really good playing again, to be honest.
It's
It's a new variation of the Rona. Are you
Oh, it's
serious?
not very deep. It's about 20 feet.
That's fucked. That's what I think. Are they pushing another vaccine, a revaccine?
When it finally went underwater, it may have been as late as 8,000 or 9,000 years ago.
Is there anything else compelling that's in the immediate area that seems to indicate that there was some sort of a man-made structure?
Well, nobody's looked for it. And the whole effort of archaeology has been to dismiss.
Yo, thanks
this
for being here,
as
Dick.
because of the
Let's
Bimini
read
Road.
Fourth Wave
Well, they say
narrative.
it's just they say it's totally natural.
Come on!
It sucks, man.
Go back to that
All right,
image again.
let's read Eric.
Listen, but
the
this is
sub.
the argument. Go back to that image.
But check out what's his name? B Rose. Terrible Children. He's got 3 viewers. That's all good. Oh no, Eric's not playing anymore. I think he raided B Rose. Should I raid B Rose? I'm gonna raid B Rose. Let's do it. What happens then? Solidly, they can't vaccinate against it anymore. Well, I mean, then you'd have to make new vaccines, I guess. Different parts of that protein. You'd have to break up whatever that variant is and make new vaccines. Oh shit, it's not online. How do I unraid? B Rose 84.
The one that you just pulled up. Yeah, look at that one. That's a stunning.
I already have a raid in progress. Wow.
It's just like the odds
Thanks.
of that being in that
Thanks,
order
Twitch.
with those uniformly sized rocks. How long is that?
Oh, 100
Okay, man.
feet.
Thanks for being here, man.
It's actually shaped like the letter J. It's a
Just lock this
giant
down.
underwater structure. It's really an enormous
6% of the
thing.
population.
Very beautiful to dive on, and there's lots of very gentle, sweet nurse shots.
Yeah, that's
So that looks much more
it's
like random.
frightening the
That's more
future.
random, and bits of
It is
bits of it do
frightening.
look more random. And bits of it look highly constructed.
That's why I'm trying to
I
make
would
it as
not,
a
I
Nintendo
would not
64
seek
streamer.
to claim
Pissing
that
off the
Bimini
entire
Road is
society.
absolutely man-made. My claim about the Bimini Road is
Like
it's
the
really
N64
fucking
society,
weird. It
unfortunately,
appears on a map above
unintentionally.
water.
Yes.
A map that
Undesirably.
was drawn in 1513 based on older source maps.
Now, when
I
they
appreciate you
found
here,
that
man.
ancient Greek
Check out
computer
Euros.
thing,
Okay.
what is that called?
When you sign off.
Mechanism.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, that
Fun
testifies
tomorrow.
to a lost
Take care, man.
navigational skill
Rule.
that
Yes.
we have not taken account of.
Congrats on the bed.
Incredibly complex, and it took a long time for them to figure out what that
Okay,
even is.
see ya.
What do they think that is now?
It tracks the
Yo,
movements
thanks,
of the
man.
planets. It's a navigational device.
Yeah,
It's,
I'm really worried
it-
about
it's a
lockdown.
weird
Ottawa was
cult
super busy this
system
weekend,
that
but I
allows you
wasn't
to
here. I
track the
was
passage of
away,
time and
but the
figure
market
out
was
where
pretty
you
busy.
are. It's
Okay,
some
thanks
kind
later,
of
man.
navigational device. It's not fully understood.
And how old is that?
I think that goes back to Greek times. I'm guessing here because